Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to a very special last call where the hurricanes don't exist because I never picked up the passion fruit puree. What kind of a bar am I running here? Anyway, I don't want to keep our very special guest waiting, especially since we are starting an hour early to accommodate her. I am, of course, referring to three-time Emmy Award-winning meteorologist Katie Nickolaou. And, of course, aged Gone with the Wind boomer, who will finally be telling us his harrowing tales, humbly downplaying his heroism, and give us an update on the current condition of the house after Big Bad Ian came and huffed and puffed. So top off your drinks, get to higher ground, and get comfortable. We'll be getting started right after this. And I think we may have just lost our special guest. I've just offended her. She's not going to come in, right? Real quick, let me say hi to Boomer. You are the one that our listeners have been looking forward to hearing from. We've gotten the dribs and drabs of what's happened to you since Ian, but we'll get into that a little bit more. But first, how you doing tonight, my friend, and what you sipping on?
I'm doing okay. I just have a Coke. I thought about just drinking water because it would be themed. Because of the water anyway, I'm having
like I said, I was going to have a hurricane, but I didn't have any passion fruit.
That is, man, dude.
I know. What kind of a bar am I running here? Well, it's a dive. You can expect it to be a dive, which is what you'd end up doing in the middle of a hurricane, I suppose.
So what are you drinking now? What are you drinking?
I am drinking a Moscow Mule. You know, and I was gonna do the Tex Avery bit. I was gonna pull in but I had a cocktail and she had a Moscow Mule, but I didn't have time for that today.
That's the choice drink of Ash from Evil Dead.
Oh,
Moscow
is it?
Mule.
Is it? There we go. Well, speaking of fandoms that we love, from so many random fandoms, we have Meteorologist Katie. How you doing today, and what you sipping on? I know it doesn't have any caffeine in it.
Yeah, it does not have caffeine. It's straight up water, because it's been that kind of a day, and I need to hydrate.
Yes, absolutely. If you're concerned about headaches, first thing you need to make sure you do is hydrate. Yeah, absolutely.
Then
absolutely.
make sure you have some food.
Well, some of us maybe not as much as we, have been getting, but anyway. So yeah, thank you so much, Katie, and thank you for. I know that you can't necessarily stay with us for the whole show. That's why we wanted to front load with you. You are awesome, but like I said, 3-time Emmy Award winner. You're a very, very important person. Just playing with you on the whole meteorologist. Wrong 60% of the time.
I just appreciate that you moved it up an hour for me. That is very considerate.
It's so worth it for you. Absolutely.
Oh.
And, it's true. You do God's work. You're trying to predict what God's going to do to us.
It's nutty. And honestly, because that was a Twin Peaks video, right?
Yes,
I knew it. I vaguely knew it. But if you look over the past 50 years, it's gone from, oh gosh, we can't predict even 3 days in advance to a little bit better nowadays. So I'm excited for the future. So it was relevant for the time with the
early 90s. Absolutely. It was a 50-50 thing. I said, look, I'm studying to be a meteorologist. Look, it's going to rain. And expecting to be long.
You'd probably be right.
Exactly. But so where are you now? What station?
Yes, I'm now at WLNS Channel 6 in Lansing, Michigan. I had a bit of a move, so I'm no longer out in the Great Plains.
You moved from one side of me to the other side, basically.
Hopping over you.
Just hopping right up. No, you don't want to stop here. Trust me. You don't want to be in Illinois.
Michigan.
Nobody does anymore. Absolutely. No.
I think our gas prices are about the same in each state, so...
Yeah, there's not much you can do about that at this point, but yeah. But, so anyway...
I'm sorry, go ahead, her? You want to talk a bit about her channel, or maybe she should talk a bit about it? Oh.
Yeah, why don't you give us Yeah, we need the 1,000-foot overview. Your channel, the news station, just the whole bit. Tell us about
it. Awesome. Well, simply put, news station, It's great. New job is a weekday morning meteorologist, so I'm still on Monday through Friday, 1 a.m. to whatever a.m. when I finish. And in the free time that I can get, I still do some streams, and I'm trying to get a new show going over on my channel, So Many Random Fandoms,
Yes.
which is literally my life. Just every random fandom out there I've become a part of, it seems. So it's been good. The main stream that we do is Order of the Blue Lotus, and that's just a friend of mine from college, Brandy, and myself, and we talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender. And we get like one episode a month, but it's a banger.
Yeah.
Cool.
I you go to her channel right now, you see all these, Last Airbender shows, and I'm thinking, well, I see the connection there, weather person, airbending. I mean, I get it. I
that
get
makes
the thing.
sense, actually.
He controls the clouds in more than one episode, so I'd be cool with it.
There
Get a
you
tornado
go.
whenever you want.
Well, yeah, I guess for a storm chaser, that would make things a little bit more convenient, right?
Oh
I
my
get
gosh,
that.
yeah. Who needs to travel to the plains? Let's just put one in the yard for decoration.
And you were just at a convention this last week, weren't you?
Yes, I went to GalaxyCon in Columbus, Ohio, and it was like the first con they've had in Ohio in quite a while, at least in that area. And so it was just mental, and it was packed, and there were so many celebrities because Jodie Whittaker from Doctor Who was there. I have to pull over the autographs because I got one that says Katie Taggart with the double hearts.
Okay.
And I was so happy about that.
Were you in your Jodie kit?
I was.
Yeah, I
I
figured.
was. And it was amazing. And then I went as a muggle the second day because,
Sure.
just want to wear regular clothes after being in the doctor's costume.
I get
And
that.
that's when I got to meet Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah. Yeah, how was that? I met him once.
I love him. We had like a 5-minute conversation just about Star Trek and life and how it's helped us, and he said I was a delight, and I'm taking that with me.
Well,
for the
he's
rest
right
of my
about
life.
that. That, and that does tend to be the general consensus. Everybody in the
Aw.
YouTube community. Oh, you're having Katie on? Oh, she is so sweet. She's wonderful. She's full of energy. She's such
I will
big
send you into
smiles.
diabetic shock. I'm so sweet.
Well, yeah, diabetes. Yeah,
Would
no,
you
exactly.
if you were transported into the future, would you join Starfleet and be a science officer?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'd be a science officer for sure. I'd probably have the messiest quarters on the entire ship because I would just have one craft going here and one project over there. But I'd be known as the tinkerer scientist.
If you were in the 24th century, if you were in the Federation, you almost have to join Starfleet because if we know anything from Star Trek Discovery and Picard, it's all a big dystopia unless you're actually in Starfleet.
Exactly. I just want to have some colors on my clothing. Is that too much to ask?
Exactly. The pictures have come out of Worf now. From the upcoming season, and one of the Klingons sent it to me and goes, "I like the sash." I'm like, "Look, I would like the whole uniform if it was really Star Trek, but the Orville is more Star Trek." But
Speaking of Orville, you also frequent Orville Nation, correct?
I do, yes. Orville Nation is the whole reason I got into streaming. PJ's just incredible. It started back during the pandemic, and now I'm just like, oh, look at me. I have a podcasting microphone now.
PJ is an absolute delight. I did want to share, I had met Jonathan Frakes at one of the earliest conventions I ever went to back in the... What year did Star Trek The Next Generation start? That was at
84?
So it was probably
No.
86, 87.
Well,
It
let
was
me
later
check.
80s.
I want to say it was like
Because 84, the movies were still going strong.
Oh, 87
Yeah.
was the
Okay.
first episode.
So maybe it was
Who's fan says 87.
87. He had his beard by then, so it must have been 88 or 89.
Okay.
I was at a convention that he was at. I was in the front row as he was doing the Q&A thing. And 89, I was significantly younger than I am now and less wise. And
I was
whatnot.
minus 7 years old.
But I was asking him a question, and I said something about, I wanted to ask a question about not Star Trek directly, but his experience in showbiz, what the life is like working with his wife Jeannie Francis. and he's like, "Oh yeah, Jeannie Francis, she's awesome. She's beautiful." I'm like, "Oh yeah, she is." And he's like, "Hey now." I'm like, "Sorry." At the end of the thing, I ran up to him and said, "I was just," and he's like, "I know." He says, "You don't even have to say it. Just playing around." It's like, okay, cool. I didn't mean an offense.
He's got a great personality, you know? He just seems to go with the vibe.
He absolutely does. And you know what? He comes from that generation. I think that generation is over now. But people in his generation were mostly, if they were professional, right? They, whatever they felt about the role they were in or what they were doing or whatever, their fans were their fans and they respected them. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of the newer generation of actors are like that. They've let the whole, thing go to their head. And, it's like the fans will just like whatever I do,
Maybe it's the consequence of the internet, maybe.
I think that's a big part of it. I mean, we've set up a horrible feedback loop that's pretty much turning the human condition into, well, hell. To be honest with you,
yeah.
But that's just
you're losing
my
faith
thought.
in humanity real fast when you log online these days.
Yeah, sure do. Real quick, I want to say hi to. Speaking of the fans, let's say hi to the chat. Connie Cleary was the first one here. She was here over a half hour early, and we're starting an hour early this week. So that's no.
Remember when I told you a few days ago that somebody else?
That's right, but it was like last week, so I can't.
It was
that
2 days ago.
Well, that was like last week to me. I've slept since
Reality
then.
has no time anymore.
Exactly.
It's all wobbly.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, Netter's in there greeting everyone, and so is this. So many random fandoms. Wonder who that is.
Could that possibly be?
I know. Big Al presents. Hello, have a great stream, everyone. Keely Chow. Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Let's see. Deleted Scenes, of course, is in here. My bad. I forgot we were starting an hour early. Don't you worry, my Blue Wrench friend. Thank you for being in here, dropping all of the links for everybody. Of course, the links for everyone, that's on the panel and Netter is down below in the description. Make sure that you're subscribed to So Many Random Fandoms. We'll find out more about what's coming up on her channel later on.
Yes.
Brandon Looney Tunes fan 2000, my friend, how are you? So good to see you. I was just sharing that I was thinking about doing a little clip from the Tex Avery. What's it one where he does all the idioms? I had a cocktail and she had a Moscow Mule. But anyway, so Red Room Diecast. Make sure you're subscribed to that channel. That's a good one. Thanks so much for being here, my friend. Let's see. And I thought I saw Evelyn Hampton here somewhere.
Evelyn and Skipper Kenner.
Oh, I just haven't scrolled down far enough. Skipper Kenner. Netter. Boosh McFadden. Good to see you, my friend. Oh, that picture looks kind of familiar. We were just talking about Jonathan Frakes. What was? Oh, Lord. A great personality. I've heard that one from women before. We were talking about that on over on Mr. Matchstick's channel. We talked about the Spectacular Spider-Man. The whole introduction of Mary Jane. Mary Jane was the niece of a friend of Aunt May. She's like, "Oh, I want you to meet, Mary Jane. She's really, she's got a great personality." Oh, she's got a great personality. And so he was avoiding meeting her for the longest time because...
Oh, no.
No, it's not mutually exclusive. They could be gorgeous, too,
Yes.
Let's see. Jonathan Frakes, Ripley's Believe It or Not fame. Oh, I had forgotten about that. That's right.
Just like William Shatner of the Unexplained fame, his hit show.
And, I didn't make this connection before, but Jonathan Frakes, heading up Ripley's Believe It or Not, kind of had a very similar vibe to back in my day, back in the 70s, Leonard Nimoy on In Search Of.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool. In fact, there's some episodes of that out on the YouTubes. It might be a lot of fun for you to check that out. It was what would you call, is there, Can you think of something like that?
It was the
these
first
days,
time, like I think it was the first time on like regular television you had a show exploring cryptids and phenomena like
and
UFOs,
urban
or
legends, and
Yeah,
that
exactly.
kind of stuff. Exactly.
It was the
And
first
each show
time,
was
I think,
dedicated to.
and he
Exactly.
lent everything an authority with his voice. He perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And-
speaker. Yeah.
And of course, we've got Jedi Bill, Bill, who has a great karaoke stream every Saturday night, which I just don't seem to be able to make because I'm doing my rewatch and then I'm tired because I'm an old man.
Exhaustion.
Say hello to Matanui.
Probably haven't gotten there, but hey, Matanui, I
I
should know
saw
you're
the
always
question.
there, even when I don't see you there.
Well, Manu had a question. It's like, it always feels weird that meteorologist seems misnamed. Actually, so the meteor is the Greek part of it for things that fall from the sky, and ologist is the study of. So we study things that fall from the sky, like rain or hail or
David Bowie.
frogs if there's tornadoes. Yeah.
Frogs.
I love explaining that one.
Wow.
I'm glad you got that. I thought that might have been before your time, too.
I know some references. I'm still a little like with others, like, what? Mostly modern references. I don't get those nearly as much.
Oh, right. Well, everything's changing every 10 minutes, right? So.
Skipper Kenner says, you're carbon dating yourself, Troy. Yeah, I am, yeah. We joke about Aged Boomer being, a boomer, and he's not a boomer. He's, what is it? It's millennial? Is that what it is, boomer?
What?
In reality, you're not a boomer.
I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a young Gen Xer.
You're a Gen Xer,
Young
right?
Okay.
Right. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And yet I'm actually older than he is.
Yeah.
Slightly,
A few years.
yeah.
Yeah,
And he every now and again will be talking about the good old days over on Geeky Geezers, and I'll make some referencing. I was like, that's before my time.
You're a child of the 70s. I'm a child of the 80s. That's the big difference.
Very
Come on, I'm the 90s. So round.
and you're the
nicely.
90s, exactly.
And I'm older than all y'all.
Yeah,
I'm
Netter can
Yeah.
almost claim to be a child of the. Well, I guess
I was
you are a
of the
child of the
60s.
60s. Yeah, so
And
not
my
almost.
birthday's in 2 days.
That's right.
Hey!
She's
Wait,
gonna.
on the 11th?
Yes.
That's my little brother's birthday.
There you go. My
Happy
little
birthday
brother's
to both
birthday
ya.
is the next day. So there you go. How cool is
Jeez,
that?
everyone's born in December.
I know.
I'm born in May.
Well, because I don't know why. But anyway, let's bring it back. So by all means, everybody, please make sure that you're subscribed to So Many Random Fandoms. She is talking about so many random fandoms, probably ones that you're interested in. So you certainly are going to want to check that out. And Evelyn Hampton, yes, she really is a true boomer. She is older than I am, and she also outranks me in the Klingon Empire. So she always gets my respect.
Oh, snap.
But absolutely.
I use the boomer tag because we all become a boomer at some point to the younger generation.
Yeah,
majority.
it's
So-
that
Oh,
okay
my-
boomer kind of thing.
Okay, so this is
ahead.
going to be a total side tangent, but
fine.
I felt so old.
So many
when
random
I-
topics.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to ADHD with Katie.
There you go.
ADHD, if you will. But I did a presentation in a middle school last week, and for weather talks and everything. And I have an air bazooka and a fog machine, and I make it fun for the kids. But I didn't realize how fun I made it, apparently, because I felt like I was in a mosh pit at the end. I went out into the lobby to say bye to the kids as they were leaving the auditorium, and I had probably about 20 or 25 of them lift up their sleeve and say, "Sign my arm." You're children, what? They're like, "You're famous. You're on TikTok." I was like,
That's right.
You're on TikTok. That's what makes you
You're
famous.
from TikTok. That's right.
exactly. No, so I signed their arms. I'm just like, please don't tell your parents. And one of them's like, "I'm never showering again." I'm like,
Oh,
you're in sixth grade. You have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Did
It's
you
like-
learn nothing from
Kill
my
someone if
TikTok
you didn't.
video?
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh. Oh my goodness.
It's like- This new generation is nuts.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. That's the nice way of putting it, I think. But, well, no, I always assumed when you'd go to conventions and you have someone get their shoulders signed or their arm, most of them said, "Oh, I'm going to go get it tattooed." You know?
Yeah.
So and some have. I've seen the people go, "Yeah, I met him in such and such, and look, I got his autograph."
There was an interview with Matt Smith during one of the Doctor Who Graham Norton things, and a guy showed up. He's like, "Yeah, I got all your autographs, including you." And Matt's like, I remember you. I was really mad because you ambushed me in a hotel lobby. So I was like, be careful, buddy, as I'm signing, because I was completely drunk. Running a risk there doing that.
That's true. That's kind of how. Yeah, that's the whole idea behind a tattoo, right? I mean, you get what you get, and you're stuck with it. I don't know, but I guess people these days don't believe in anything being permanent. I guess you can somehow change everything, but we still can't change the weather. We can identify the weather however we want, but there's nothing that we can do about reality. So
sadly, using explosives cannot destroy storms. We've tried.
Have you personally tried? I'm just wondering.
I mean, there are firecrackers in my trunk. But no, at one point we tried, like, people used rockets to launch weather sensors into tornadoes, and the tornado just like smacked it away. I don't think they ever actually got it into the tornado.
So, other side of it, though, trying to start a storm, start rain. I've heard about, the dropping the dry ice, seeding clouds and stuff.
The geoengineering.
Any legitimacy there?
Well, you can do cloud seeding. Cloud seeding's a thing, but actually you're screwing yourself over in the end, because the more moisture, like, you are literally sucking every little bit of moisture out of the air, and you're making it even more dry, which means you're going to have to try to get more moisture in, which just doesn't happen. So we kind of have given up on that mostly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get the logic, cold condensation, so forth, but yeah, I also, it's...
Well, you need, like, all the wind and the upper level factors, and you just can't create that. It's too big.
Well, it's just so many factors, right? It's that whole butterfly effect thing, the chaos
I might say
theory
so many random factors.
Well, yeah, exactly. But there is this belief that we can control everything, and the fact is we just don't have that level of technology.
With Hurricane Ian, meteorologists were getting bombarded with, this is HARP, you're engineering it, this is meant to hit the state of Florida because of the way people voted down there. And it's just like, this started in Africa.
This is not how this works. This is not how any of this works.
It hit Cuba.
I'm just like,
it's not.
It hit Cuba.
Cuba got hit horribly by that thing.
I mean,
oh my gosh.
So, and
every
that
day.
actually brings up a great point about the whole Hurricane Ian and the coverage of it. And I know this was something that Boomer wanted to get into. Boomer was saying, because, and you were mentioning at the top of the show, you had no internet, you had no electricity, you were in a shelter. And you weren't hearing any of the, for example, the news coverage and whatnot that all of us were getting. And he asked, when I was finally able to get in touch with him, he said, what are people saying about it? And I just sat and I said, not near as much as you would think. Mm-hmm. They did not cover Ian the same way they covered Katrina. That's for damn sure. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Katie, but do you have anything to share about that or any insights on that?
Yeah, well, it really does depend on the areas that get hit a lot of times, because there could be huge tornado outbreaks in South Dakota and you never hear bupkis about it, but you could get one tornado near Washington, D.C. and it dominates the news. Right. So it has a lot to do with the areas that get hit and the areas that get hit the worst. And also just the other news around the world. We still had the Ukraine was still dominating a lot of the news stories, and then you get, holy cow, political stuff and all that mess. And so that did bog it down a little bit. But what's interesting is with Ian, it was a Category 4, just shy of a Category 5. And when Katrina made landfall, it was only a Category 3. That's what a lot of people don't realize. A lot of times people are like, it's the strongest hurricane to ever hit the United States. Nope. It was the levees and all that mess. And I think because it had to do with the weather tied in with politics, that really sped up for the news to take hold of it, because it had two hot topics combined into one.
Speaking of random fandoms, we got a South Park reference here. Blame Florida.
Yeah.
It's not the 2000 election. We cleaned up our voting procedures down here.
Yeah, Netter and I have, been for years making the jokes about the hanging chads and the this and the that. But the reality is, that's an example of somebody of a state that was like, okay, okay, we got some egg on our face. Let's get this addressed and cleaned up.
And that was cleaned up a while back, yeah. But
And ironic,
That's good.
without getting onto a political side tangent, unfortunately, there's people upset because they're actually this is Eastern-phobic that they have cleaned up their elections so that they can be fair. How dare them in Florida?
Interesting.
But
anyway, so
yeah, so what and again, this is probably the kind of thing that I'm not asking you to comment on, Katie, because you have your public image to worry about. But I just kind of felt in looking at the coverage, there was some definite political biases in the media as it was being covered. And not from anyone, in the meteorology. I mean the headliner people.
The national news and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely noticeable. And meteorologists do pick up on it because a lot of times the people who write up these stories aren't meteorologists. They're just looking for the next big thing to get clicks. Which, I mean, is granted, that's their job. But it does lead to a lot of interesting taglines and headers and whatnot, and as soon as the clicks start going down, it's on to the next thing. So I always like to go back and finish up stories that we begin, like on the local news and everything. So hopefully the local people did that after the storm when everyone had power back on.
Yeah, and we've always said, if it bleeds, it leads when it comes to the media. That's always been the case. That's not something that's new. And they do tend to, hey, we can get some footage here and we can, and they, and of course you've probably seen the videos circulating where the guy is like pushing against and he's reporting on the storm and it's so bad and you got like two guys behind him in shorts walking looking, what are you doing, then the girl in the canoe and then somebody walks by her canoe that's only like that far off the ground and stuff.
It's become a meme, honestly.
And it's like, you know what? People are losing respect, I think, for the media. But pivoting back again, I'm talking about this sensationalistic journalism, not meteorology. I think it's quite the opposite. We were talking about how back in the 90s, flip of the coin, it'll rain or it won't. Nowadays, it's actually pretty good. And it's gotten to the point where, I better not say her name or she'll wake up, but my AI over here, you ask her what's the weather forecast. She'll tell you, you should expect some rain at exactly this time. And sure enough, you can look out the window at exactly that time and it'll start to,
Oh, yeah.
Or she says it's raining.
It's raining right now.
Yeah. Look outside your window.
Well, yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. That's always been the case, right? What's the weather right now? I don't know. Look outside. Although this is my favorite weather story to tell, right? So when I was in high school, I was working at a fast food place, and I had to collect the garbage inside and outside and take it out to the dumpster. So I collect the ones in the building and take it out the back, throw it, and I look up and you could see like the storm clouds are coming. So I'm like, oh, we're going to get rain. I go out front and it's raining and I collect the garbage outside. I go through the store and it's not raining out back.
Wow.
So I drop the garbage off. I go back to the front. It's raining in the front of the store. Go to the back. It's not raining. I'm literally standing at the terminator of where that storm was.
Which state was that in?
Illinois.
Illinois.
It was LaGrange. LaGrange.
Really?
LaGrange,
It
Illinois.
must have been a disconnected storm that wasn't a part of any kind of upper level flow.
It
was
was
just stationary.
There was very little wind. So, it was coming straight down, So I literally could step into it, step out of it. Step into it,
That's
step
so
out.
cool. Oh my gosh. I love it when that happens. When you see the wall of rain.
One half of the street, not the other.
Yeah, so when you're on the expressway, sometimes you see that. You can see,
Yes.
and I the first time I ever not only saw rain in the distance, but recognized the difference between the falling rain and the clouds, I was in Cimarron, New Mexico, and I was up in the mountains.
Ooh.
So
Yes.
one of the rangers was pointing out, he says, you see that? There's a storm and it's raining. And when I looked and focused, you could see where the gray is. You could tell what's cloud, and then the kind of lines and at an angle. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you could see it. You could see it coming, and you knew. And then you could see the droplets, and then boom, you were in the rain, right? And ever since then, I've been able to do the same thing when I'm out driving, and it's like I am driving, and I'm driving into a storm, and here it comes, and I hit the windshield wiper just before it hits the hood.
Nice. Oh yeah, that happens with storm chasing all the time. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm just sharing, because this is my inexperienced, what's happened to me with weather. You go looking for these incidents. Real quick, I want to say hi to the lovely Sherry. Haven't seen you in a while.
Hey.
So good to see you, my friend. I super appreciate you being here.
I have a question for Katie about
Go for
hurricanes. Are hurricanes interesting to meteorologists? Are they not as interesting as, like, let's say, tornadoes or blizzards or whatnot? Are they not?
Actually, there's quite a lot of meteorologists that think it's like the main thing that they want to study, and a lot of people will study and specialize in it. And you'll find actually most meteorologists have a specialty. Like for me, it's lake effect snow and tornadoes. Some focus purely on severe weather in the plains, others on high pressure systems and fire weather, and others a lot of times in the South focus on the hurricanes. And there's a lot of people who will just do tropical research for it. So it's one of the top ones.
Skipper Kenner is, of course, poking at. Have you and Netter ever, were you and Netter ever with us on a boat when we had a storm come in? No, not when a storm came in, but we were on very choppy waters, which, I
threw up.
Netter got very sick, and even though I'm well experienced on boats, even I started to get a little nauseated.
Oh, gosh.
That led to positioning myself on a boat in a place that was better for my stomach, but not so good for my skin, and I got sun poisoning, and that was I
got sun poisoning too.
I'm pale, so that would not be good.
Yeah.
I was just imagining you and Netter, and it was going to be like that scene in The Perfect Storm with the couple on the boat. Remember? Said we can ride this out. Remember that? Did you ever see The Perfect Storm? Okay,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And if I'm not mistaken, they stole that scene for Frozen too, right?
Yeah.
So. Red Room Diecast brings up, how about cyclones? I actually want to take that question a little bit farther. You can answer a question that's been bothering me for over 50 years. What is the difference between a cyclone and a tornado?
Well, it's all about terminology at this point, because we have cyclones that are mesoscale, which is localized thunderstorms and tornadoes, and then you have cyclones that are tropical scale with tropical cyclones. And the first one, with it being tornadoes, it's kind of interchangeable. We just became more used to using tornado because, muddied between small scale and large scale. But with the Pacific Ocean, and the closer you are to Japan and China, that's where you get the tropical cyclones versus what we call hurricanes. It just depends on which ocean and which area it's in.
That is always a concern because, there is, the meteorological term, and then there's whatever term people use, and
exactly.
It's a twister. Well, a twister, that means whatever it means to you,
What do you think it is? Yeah, no, well, and what's interesting is during the World War II in the Pacific Theater, they did have a lot of tropical cyclones and all these different storms all at once. And it was difficult to keep track of them just by saying, oh, that's Cyclone 1, Cyclone 2, Cyclone 3. So they started naming them after their wives and the girls back home. And that's how we started naming the hurricanes. And back when the women's suffrage movement started to really pick up in the 70s, we started to switch off the naming every other one with boy, girl names.
I see.
There you go. Boomer, you on YouTube, we've lost your picture, so you want to maybe switch between a couple and see if we can't bring you back. It's not important. We can hear you just fine.
I'll do it now. I'll go to the other Boomer, or I can go to.
Well, this is an interesting question. So let's generalize this, not just do cyclone spin in the other direction, but we hear all this stuff about the Coriolis effect and toilets. And,
the physics.
And I know the answer to this, but I figured give you a chance to talk about that.
Yeah, well, with tornadoes specifically, you can have them spin cyclonically or anticyclonically. And what's interesting is in the northern hemisphere, we spin counterclockwise most of the time with our storms, versus in the southern hemisphere, it's clockwise. So it really depends on where you are. And it's not out of the question. We could get tornadoes that spin clockwise in the northern hemisphere too. It's just much more rare, and it has to be in a specific set of storms. Then if you look at hurricanes, for us, they always spin cyclonically, which is counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere, and the opposite in the southern.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is, you got a tornado coming at you. You're not going to be paying attention which direction it's spinning. He's like, it's tornado. I just gotta get out of here. It's just like, the whole thing about snakes. If they have the slit eyes, they're poisonous, and if they don't have slit eyes, they're not poisonous. I don't want to get close enough to see its eyes. Just better to keep my distance, right?
I'd pet it and take it in as a pet.
Well, I happen to be one of those that knows the snakes in the area well enough to not have to see their eyes to know whether they're poisonous or not.
Run.
But actually, it's gotten so bad that I'm one of those types that they have a snake in a movie and it's supposed to be a coral snake, but it's not a coral snake because it's not red next to yellow, and it's like, that's not a poisonous snake. Well, what do you want them to do? Use a real poisonous snake No, they got CG these days. They could use a green snake and put the color over them.
Honestly, that wouldn't be a half bad idea if you had a green breed of snake.
That's a whole other topic, but Boomer and I have talked a lot about... Oh, yeah, your picture's good now, Boomer.
Yes.
We've talked a lot about, how films are getting less and less profitable because they're spending inordinate amounts of money on what they're doing, and they don't have to. They are wasteful. But that's...
Look at Ghostbusters Afterlife, moderately priced and...
Very, for what they did, they were incredibly frugal. So it ended up making, a good profit. And then you've got some other films that, you hear that they've got like 5 different endings filmed and it's reshoots and re-edits. And it's like, maybe get it right the first time before you start filming and save yourself, about 3 times the budget.
Find which one the test audience likes the most, or just likes the least. Anyway, hurricanes though.
Yeah.
Yes.
So specifically on Ian, how closely were you following it, Katie? And because I know it's an interest of yours, but also you're up north, it's down south.
Yeah, I kept a very close eye on it because we knew that something was going to happen starting out, because the storm was taking a track that was going to pretty much just get into the warmest waters in the Gulf at the time. And whenever that happens, the storms just explode, because hurricanes are warm water engines. They need warm water to survive, which is why they die over land. And so following that and following all the meteorologists I do on Twitter, it was hard to not see all the information that came out. So I was watching it very closely, and actually I have a cousin who lived in Punta Gorda when Charlie hit, and the similarities between Charlie and what was the system that came after it? There was another one that came in almost a very similar path to what we had with Ian, and then the follow-up system behind that. So
wasn't Martha?
Really
was it?
Creepy. What was it?
I'll see if I can find out the name. Go ahead.
Yeah. But there were all these weird statistics and everything, and it was fun to see from a climatological standpoint.
And honestly, I was half joking about you're up north and that's down south, but a hurricane that big, well, any hurricane really, it's going to affect the weather in the states around it. So, here in Chicago, we probably got rain specifically because of some of what was going on with that hurricane.
Some hurricanes can extend well past the Gulf. I remember Katrina, we had rain in Michigan. So, and not only that, but it's such a large system that it does mess with the micro scale weather phenomenon that are going on in other areas. You have the jet stream, and that doesn't really mess with it too much, but anything else, you can get different rain, you can get tornadoes and all that stuff.
Well, one of the things that my mom used to always do, for years, she'd give me a call. She's in Ohio. She'd call me here in Chicago and go, "What's the weather today?" And I'd tell her, and she'd be saying, "Okay, well, I'm expecting something very similar then in the next day or two." That goes completely out the window, though, when there's a significant hurricane east of her. And it's like, it's almost the other way around.
Nice. Exactly. Oh, and I found it. It was in 2004, Charlie hit, and then Jeannie, I think it is, crossed the path 43 days later. Then this year, we had Ian, and then Nicole hit and crossed the path in a very similar spot 43 days later. And it's like, whoa, that's giving the heebie-jeebies.
Yep. And so...
You were freaking out again. We heard about Nicole. Like, we're already too spent to even...
Maybe this is shaky ground to be getting into. You can take it however you want to. But we got a whole lot of, this is all happening because of global warming and global climate change and this and that. And I'm sitting here going, we've never had hurricanes before? I mean...
What? It's interesting because always in that conversation is one thing or the other. And the way that it is, meteorologically at least, is we've had hurricanes before. We've definitely had them. And one hurricane does not set the climatological precedent. Just like if you have one really cold winter or one really hot summer. Neither of those are climate change by themselves. Climate actually is a 30-year average at a minimum. So, oh gosh, it ticked me off so much when everyone was like, "Oh, this is purely climate change and this and this." It's like, no, it could be partially affected by it, but one category 4 hurricane, like if you saw the frequency increase or one area in particular get hit, et cetera, but alone that storm was not climate change wrapped in a nice, neat little bow.
It frustrates me, and again, I think we're coming back to the TikTok social media age where everyone thinks that because they have access to Google and Wikipedia, they're experts on everything. And those of us that have been around long enough to know what was the old saying? I've come to learn that the more I learn, the less I know, or the more I have to know, or whatever it is. And it's like, when you understand the science, and I mean that in the original meaning of the word, the way science works, we learn general trends, we learn to observe, we learn not to put too much stake into our conclusions, though.
Yes.
And unfortunately, people have turned science into a religion and said, well, this is all climate change, or this is, because, and what that sets people up for is when real scientists come along and say, remember when we were calling it global warming and now the temperatures are going down? Which is it? Is it global warming? Is it global? Oh, well, we'll call it global climate change then. Well, but isn't climate changing all the time? And we had these ice ages and we had these tropical ages and, over thousands of years. We're talking about trends that happen over, hundreds and thousands of years. And you think that all of history can be summed up in the 30 years you've been alive.
It's a lot of extremes. Same with politics, same with weather, and same with climate and every conversation around it. And it's a lot more to focus on with the subtleties. And that's where you're going to find the true data. And where you'll find a lot of meteorologists living, too.
There you go. Speaking of where you're living, so would you suggest... are you suggesting Agent Boomer should move out of Florida, or should he... do you have some suggestions for someone who is living in Hurricane Alley?
Yes. Well, I'd say, if you want to come to Michigan, it's pretty nice. We get all the seasons. Taxes are nuts, but everything else is good. Actually, I'd recommend South Dakota. No state income tax. Really nice. No oceans either, so you don't have to worry about the hurricanes. But if you live in an area that gets hurricanes a lot, don't live on the beach. There's a lot of areas. Same thing if you're out west and you live in fire country and you just keep getting things destroyed by fires. It's gonna keep happening. They're just a part of life. We're floating through all kinds of weather. So have a plan, have an evacuation area, that's the best spot. And yeah, keep living life.
I gotta share this. She doesn't. I know she doesn't watch my channel. She doesn't care, so I can talk about her. My sister-in-law moved from California to
Nevada.
Nevada.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was it Nevada?
Or Arizona,
No,
wherever.
Nevada.
Okay. She was moving away from the fires, right? She moves to Nevada, and there's fires. And it's like, did you not pay attention to where these fires were? They weren't just in your one block area.
Everywhere.
You know? It's like, you need to move like to Kansas or something. You want to get away from that.
Okay, but she did want to move closer to her daughter who lives in Nevada.
Yeah. Well, don't say you're trying to get away from the fire if you're going to move to the other side of the fire.
areas of Nevada where there's nothing to burn.
Well, there's that, then, and it's a dry heat, so it's okay.
Yeah. It is.
But Boomer, so speaking of
Boomer.
living on the beach, you actually do live pretty close to the ocean there, don't you?
Yes, well, we also have a canal, too, in the background.
Oh, see the canals with the storm surge? That'll get you.
Yes.
Oh, you sound so tired.
No, it's fine.
No, because he's thinking back to all that he went through. So Boomer, let's get a little bit into some of what you went through. You knew that the storm was coming, and you're a wise person. You could have picked up and gotten out of Dodge, but you didn't. Why was that?
I can't because I am a humble civil servant. Okay, I work for the county government, and all county governments are called, employees are called upon, or at least a good number of them, called upon to, work hurricane shelters during emergencies. And, you hope that the emergency doesn't actually hit, that, maybe some cranky people about having to be, quartered in rooms and whatnot, and that's about the worst you're going to deal with. Not that an actual hurricane is going to hit you, but unfortunately this time that did happen, so...
How close were you to the eye of it?
Oh, I don't know.
See, he wasn't getting the weather reports to know exactly where the storm was in relationship.
We think we were in the eye, and the eye lasted a while. Here's what our understanding of it was. Now, oddly enough, at my shelter, it wasn't as busy. Plus, I was also on the night shift, so I didn't see a lot of stuff going on during the day. But I think a lot of people, like basically public schools, end up being used as shelters a lot in these situations. And
Gotcha.
I was at the middle school. A lot of people went over to the high school. A lot of I think they were setting them there first, and then we got the holdovers at our place, the middle school. But it was kind of slow going. We're getting a ton of people over there, and then the hurricane hit, and we were on lockdown at that point, and we were all trying to play Trivial Pursuit during it just to pass the time. And I was looking out. I was doing pretty well too, actually. But and then I was looking out the window, and it's like sheets of water coming down, and it wasn't stopping.
Oh, yeah.
And I had heard that. I think we were trying to read updates before we lost the internet and lost. I guess eventually we lost power because we were waiting for to see. And I think what they said about Hurricane Ian was that it was a Category 4. And, that's not good, but it's not necessarily the end of the world. But it was also a very slow-moving hurricane. And that's also probably where a lot of the damage came from, even more so than its category. But I'm not a weather expert, so don't take me verbatim. That's why we have you on. So
Because it's true where you have multiple factors with the hurricanes is the wind and the rain. And the worst ones like Harvey over in Texas that caused all that devastating flooding was because it stalled. And the wind wasn't necessarily the worst. But then you get storms that have a lot of strong wind like Ian, who also have all that rain, and it's messy. I think the report was 17 inches of rain in 24 hours in one spot, which if you put for anyone in snow country, a 10-to-1 ratio, that would be 170 inches of snow in one day. That equivalent moisture.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Say hi to Vagrancy Horror. He's at work, so he can't hang around, but he just wanted to say hi. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah. So that was that, and it was something of a joke. I mean, when you are in a position like Boomer and you are responsible for people in shelter, I think there's a certain amount of heroism that goes into.
Oh, please, no.
Yes, and see, this is what I said. He's got this humility. He doesn't want to, but I'm like,
it's not.
Look,
I was on night shift. Not a ton happened. I did help some old folks one night. Okay,
but
I mean,
but
that
there's
was it.
so
I mean,
much that you could have
not-
done for yourself if you weren't staying to care for other people. Look, I'm comparing this to people that I saw on TikTok that we were calling heroes that are doing these dances during lockdowns. And it's like, you know what? That makes you a hero. You weren't doing TikTok saying, I'm dancing during the hurricane while people are washing away, you know?
We are obligated as county employees to do this. My point is this,
you
though.
do know some older tunes.
A little bit here or there. If they're weather related.
I'm telling you, there are a lot of county employees doing a lot of stuff, and we do thank them for their service.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
wasn't there
luckily,
a gator wrestling incident too, Boomer?
I may have exaggerated that. Actually, I'll tell you this though. Even after the hurricane, we were still there because, of course, we were usually the Red Cross comes in to take over, but of course they were busy out trying to rescue people because apparently,
Skipper Kenner's bringing it all together. You're a hero. Do you sign body parts?
Please stop it. Stop it. Anyway.
The forearm, super easy.
No, anyway, what I'm trying to say is that what do you call it though? What was I just saying? Oh,
Red
yeah,
Cross.
but yeah, because the Red Cross were busy trying to actually, I think, were trying to find people that got flooded. Like our area, it got hit, but there were other areas of Florida that got it worse. Like Fort Myers was a disaster from what I had heard. I feel awful for those people. Yeah. And they were out there, so we were stuck there. And I remember one night, one of my a worker for another. We were on the same team, like the same shift or whatever. We were in the same room, and he'd gotten locked out of the gate, wanted to be let in. And I had the key, and I was going to let him in. And I'm walking around this school campus in the middle of the night where there's barely any power, maybe some emergency lights. I don't even know if there's even that, if memory serves. And there's nothing creepier than a public school in the middle of night and no one's around.
In the daytime.
And I'm looking around for this guy and I'm getting lost. And I finally get out there and I finally call him because I'm like, where is he? And then, someone else let him in. But I was like, I thought he got lost and if something happened to him. Like a creature got him. Because let's face facts, when wind's getting blown around, you never.
Yeah.
We don't need. We have the skunk ape down here. Thank you very much.
Oh,
there you go.
You have your own
skunk ape.
Yeah.
We have our own cryptid.
Cryptids are regional. We got to keep that in mind.
Amazing. I mean, with the wind of a hurricane, anyone can be swept in.
That's true. Anyway,
they have their conventions.
Yeah, there was this talking raccoon that said, "Hey, I'm going to need your leg."
Yeah. Exactly.
But I'd heard someone talking about how I think this was right after I got out of the shelter after my shifts were done and we were able to leave. After the roads had gotten clear enough, because for a while we couldn't even leave anyway if we wanted to, because it was argued that we didn't have word of what was going on outside. What they told us, it was like a moat around the area. You couldn't leave, or other you're gonna, because you know what happens when you always see pictures of these people. They try to drive through the water,
don't drown,
and then the car ends up getting stuck.
There's one video of a guy who was driving recently through floodwaters, and his van just got swept away, and all the meteorologists just like, what more do you want from us? If you get injured, they blame us for not forecasting it.
I was almost one of those guys. I was smart enough to realize, you know what's going to happen. You're going to wreck your car. I know you're worried about the house, everything. Just go back, and hopefully you'll hear from other family members that you weren't sure what happened. And luckily, I got calls. All my family was safe. That was good. And unfortunately, as we know in the chat, not everybody was as lucky with family members. Hurricanes are horrible. And
oh my gosh, yes.
So
much can go wrong with them.
Yeah, and so I just turned around, and but yeah, when you're panicking though, you do stupid things.
Completely.
Yes,
absolutely.
And we weren't getting word as to
things on the regular.
Yeah. I was like, and it's this time around, you realize you really should pack a radio.
Oh yes.
Preferably one with a dynamo, so you can just crank it. You don't have to worry about batteries.
It's funny. The local NPR station, I think it's part of like they do the fundraising. And part of the gift was a hurricane survival kit for people in Florida. One of them had a crank. One of the items was a crank radio and like I guess some kind of solar lights or something. Like in case you lose all power, what you do.
If you want a good survival tip, if you have a bathtub or get an inflatable swimming pool and fill it with water. And just have clean water ready to go.
Yep.
Such a good tip.
Typically, yeah, people do that. I almost feel that we've had a lot of false alarms in my area, and I don't know if people weren't taking it as seriously because, of course, even a couple of years ago, this was before I was even a county employee at one of these places. I was just a person. We were seeking shelter because we were worried about a hurricane, and of course, it passed over, and it wasn't. I think it was a 3 at most, and it didn't get the area too bad. I mean, power went out.
Just
obviously.
a 3, you know.
I know, or maybe it was a 2. I don't remember. This is why we have you on, so I don't sound like But
I mean, Florida, seriously, some people are just like, it's nothing unless it's a 4 or more. It's like,
And maybe it's just living, in the Chicago area, but it's like, I just have this feeling that it's like, if you know that this is a potential, this is something that can happen, maybe do everything you can to prepare in advance for it. Just a thought,
Worst case scenario.
I am probably not going to prepare for a hurricane, but I know about tornadoes, and I know what I should and should not do, and where I should and shouldn't go during a tornado, and
You could prepare for a meteor tsunami on Lake Michigan.
Yeah. Oh, you say that. Oh, so it was winter time too. It was, back in the mid 90s, and I was on Lakeshore Drive. Oh. Do you know Chicago pretty well? You know Lakeshore Drive, literally right there there. I mean, there's Lakeshore Drive, a little bit of beach, and then lake.
Maybe some cement for a bike path. That's it.
And it was a snowstorm, pretty windy. But as I'm coming around that S curve, I see these waves just swoosh over all 4 lanes of Lakeshore Drive, and I'm like,
Left turn.
So I look, and there's, no matter what, there's always a good deal. It's basically a 4-lane highway is what it really is. And so there's always a good deal of traffic. And I look at what I'm coming up on, and it was like Gray Still playing Grand Theft Auto 5, It's like coming up on the wall ride, and it's like you got to time it. It's like, okay, I get over, okay, slow down. You see the water recede, speed up, get past it.
Done it.
And, I look behind me, and I just see the cars behind me just getting slammed in the side, some of them sliding. And I'm like, the heck? Did you not see the same thing I saw? I mean, what, And I'm like, okay, I got to get off Lakeshore Drive. Well, I saw pictures of the exact area I was in. I don't know if it was the same cars or not, but there were some cars that were stalled out and whatnot.
Oh,
and
wow.
That those waves were freezing. So it literally ended up a whole, lanes of the road had become ice. I'm like, well, I got through there just at the right time.
Yeah.
Safety tip, don't go driving on Lakeshore Drive in a snowstorm ever again.
Just don't drive on Lakeshore Drive. That thing.
Well, now, I don't even go into the city anymore. I'm sorry. I've got people say, oh, I'm coming into town for this convention or for that concert. It's like, have fun. I'm not going. I don't go into the city. Stay safe. Keep your head down.
I did background extra work in college in Chicago on sets, and I would have set calls anywhere from 4 a.m. to probably 6 a.m. when I missed most of the traffic until I had to leave. So that was brutal.
Yeah, Chicago is
PJ, I see pictures in the chat.
Skipper Cat is like, you got to drive Lakeshore Drive and blast the song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Exactly. Where's? Oh yeah, there he is. PJ, how you doing? Good to see you, my friend. We were talking about you at the top of the show. In fact, we were just talking about you over on Pop's channel. Was it yesterday? Someone, maybe it was it me or was it? I don't remember if I said it or someone else said it. We were quoting you about the Together We Grow. So thanks so much, man.
Heck yeah.
You are awesome people. This community is at least partially directly because PJ brought us
completely.
together.
But, I wouldn't know any of you if it hadn't been for him.
No.
Well, no, we'd have known about the poopsicles. We'd have known
That's
you.
True, yeah.
Poopsicles.
You wouldn't know I was a nerd.
Nerd.
Huge.
Now I think of that scene from The Simpsons where Homer says,
Oh,
"Nerd."
Nerd. Yeah, exactly.
So obnoxiously, like the cruelest way you could say it, and just.
Well, what's funny about nerd culture is that has changed so much. You know, if someone's a nerd, it's like everyone looks and goes, "Yeah."
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, but
We're the cool ones now.
well, they've made the nerd thing, and yeah, you seek out your local nerd because it's like, hey, these new movies are coming out, and I don't know much about it. Can you tell me a little bit about what comics should I be reading? And well, actually, any good nerd will tell you, you know what, you're better off not reading the comics. See if you enjoy the movies. If you don't enjoy the movies, then go check out the comics and focus on them. You know, because otherwise, enjoying the comics is going to be ruined by whatever they're putting out these days.
Yeah.
So.
Come on, there's that.
I hear that a lot. I hear a lot of people watch these Marvel shows and go, well, I never read the comics, but I enjoyed it. Well, that's why you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Those of us that, like these characters, that ain't that character. Sorry.
It's very different. Yeah, that's why I'm like, okay, the comic book universe and the cinematic universe, different. Except for Tony Stark.
Yeah, but she doesn't know you like I know you, Skipper Kenner. So
that's why the Ms. Marvel actress was getting into an argument with Kevin Feige about which Marvel universe she was in, because she's saying this is not the Marvel universe from. Remember, she was from the comics. I think she was making an argument it wasn't, and Feige said it was, or something.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, don't put too much stock into what a celebrity says about you. I mean, I had George Takei think I was a pretty nice guy, and that's probably because we didn't talk politics. But
so
anyway,
yeah. So hurricanes. Let me see. Hurricane Ian, Category 4 hurricane. Just sheets of water. The poor trees.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The trees are done. So many trees have fallen down during this thing. If there's a business sign, blown out. Forget about it. And let's say you're finally able to get out of the shelter and the roads are semi-safe, even though all the lights aren't working, which is always fun. So be careful.
Four-way stop everywhere.
Yeah, you got to be careful. That makes me nervous more than a lot of other things. And you have to be careful what streets you go down in case there's a down power line. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And let's see, what else did I have to deal with? When I'm first out on my own looking in this thing, I am seeing you want to get something to eat. Okay, you have no refrigeration in your house because there's no power right at the moment. So you decide let's go to McDonald's. McDonald's ain't open. No restaurants are open. You can't order pizza.
The best you can hope for is Waffle House. That place is built like a tank.
It's funny you mentioned that because the I think it was the principal at the school. He was he was upset because I think the Waffle House, they were thinking about going over there and I think it was closed. And then he was on the ride with us. We were being transported to another high school like Invest. I said, hey, look, I pointed to him, Waffle House over there, it's open. He got all excited. And it was like, yes. I told him you can stop there. See, it's
first in a hurricane in a Waffle House.
I mean, to be fair, it was an area I don't think that was as affected by Ian. But yeah, I was there for Charlie, and luckily where I was living in, not too badly hit. Some parts of my town lost power. We were on the line that didn't lose power. We actually lucked out during Charlie. But the trouble with Florida is it's always like hurricane season. It's like Russian roulette. It's like, are you going to get hit this time? It's like,
yeah, well, and you have so many different areas you can get hit from being a peninsula. And like with Ian, it cut across Florida and then swept up, re-intensified to a Category 1, and then slapped into South Carolina.
Wow.
Okay, so we got this conversation going on. We've got Geek Flag talking about She-Hulk, and then we've got Boosh McFadden talking about Brie Larson's feet. And you start putting Brie Larson and She-Hulk into a conversation about feet, and you have a whole different contingency of fans. Let's just put it that way. Let's keep it as PG-13 as possible, but yeah.
Yeah.
Katie, if you really want to boost your channel views, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was.
Oh God!
Okay, so there's one guy who's universally known for messaging female meteorologists and being like, "Send me a picture of your feet."
Oh, are you kidding me?
Like, everyone gets that message. It's almost like a club.
from what I've heard, my understanding is that female celebrities have to deal with this all the time, and apparently there's a wiki dedicated to it. So, like, if you're on the red carpet and whatnot, and you have open-toed shoes, your feet will show up on this wiki.
Oh my gosh! It's like, no. You gotta make it at least uniform across every gender. Like, you gotta just be like,
well, I'm sure there are some women that might. No.
Might want hobbit feet?
There's nothing. Yeah, I was going to say, I can't see women being attracted to men's hairy, bony feet. I don't know, but maybe. I'm sure there's something for everyone out there. I just.
Look elegant.
But no, I know that. Well, just as a woman in general, but I mean, as a celebrity especially, you probably have had some things to deal with. I mean, actually, from seeing stuff online, I've known you've had some stuff to deal with.
Yes. No, that's the fun part, though, is to call them out for it.
The
and you
fun part.
Latent rage you didn't realize you had.
You should see if maybe there's a guy at the station with like the worst feet and take pictures of those.
Yes. No, seriously, just be like, all right, here. There you go. It's like got gangrene and one of the toes hanging off. Like, yeah, there you go. You want
Yeah, but then you see those pictures circulating around. Meteorologist Katie's feet, you know, and it's like, yeah, no.
You said you wanted a foot picture. You didn't say whose.
You didn't say mine specifically. Yeah.
It's turning into a sitcom now about meteorologists, right?
Yeah.
I have to, you know, and I've heard this from many different celebrities. There are stories to be told. I mean, and it's like talking to an ER doctor. It's like, oh, I got some stories for you. You talk to an attorney. Oh, I got some stories for you. You know, it's just everyone's got their stories.
Completely. Oh yeah.
So I actually wanted to. There was not directly related to the topic conversation, but you know, we've talked about your storm chasing and so forth, and we did the watch party of Twister and so forth. And I was wondering, at that time, you had submitted a video because you were trying to get a spot on Survivor. Did anything ever come of that?
You know, nothing yet. They do have a backlog, though, of shows because of COVID that they haven't gone through the most recent applications. So we'll see.
Oh, see, I actually beat him to it. PJ was asking when we finally see Katie on Survivor. Katie. I love, there was a picture you had posted when you were doing the video. It's a capture from the video that you sent in, and it's like this superhero pose where you're, you know, with the sun in front of you. It's a, wow, that's a great picture, you know?
I love it. That was my Joe cosplay from Twister, I think. And I went out to a cornfield and just was like, yeah, sunset, this should be good. And it was.
I don't even know what to do with that, Boosh. I just...
Party game.
Okay. Okay.
Right. The first half guy was like, yeah, totally. And then I see the last of him like, I mean, you aren't lying. It's true.
Well, you know, it's one of those kinds of things that you don't notice until you do, and then you can't unnotice it. Someone's pointed this out about, what's his name that did Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon, and how many times the girls in his shows and movies are barefoot, and the same thing with Quentin Tarantino. I'm like, I never even noticed this until someone pointed it out. I'm like, what the heck? How do you even notice this? Make this connection? But okay, apparently everybody's got a thing, I guess. You know. Sadly, I'm just too vanilla. Don't get me wrong. You know, I am a guy, and you know, if women knew what was in guys' heads, you know, it would be the end of the human species. It absolutely would be. But, no, it's true. But at least my sickness is
no,
like
it's all the
normal.
other guys that are the pervos.
No. No, because if you find the one guy who never ever thinks about sex, you know, you look at him and go, "What's wrong with you, dude?" You know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like, and still ends up in the end of the human civilization because he's not interested, and so okay.
Anyway.
That's fascinating.
Because biology, right? The way babies come into this world.
Science.
I don't care what you say. There's still the dichotomy of male and female and making babies. Okay, it's just it's still science if you believe in science these days. Just saying. Wow, how many of these have I had?
I
That's a
don't
good
know.
mule, right?
Moscow Mule's kicking me in the ass. See what I did there?
Back to the hurricane. Now,
Right.
unfortunately, sometimes in hurricanes, when you're at a facility and the power goes out, that sometimes also means the plumbing goes out as well.
Ooh,
And that could be a problem. Because apparently,
Yeah.
why is plumbing tied to electricity? Well, apparently,
Because you got to
it
pump
was.
it. Yeah.
So
did you have to do the thing where you like would get buckets of water to flush the toilets and whatnot?
We tried that.
Did
Oh.
it not work?
No.
That sounded very defeated
Because-
when you said that.
Because the sewers were completely filled, right?
I
Oh,
don't
man.
know. Anyway, less
Yeah.
details on that again. Oh, let's say here's another interesting tidbit about this. Let's say your house survives the hurricane, you're good to go. Not necessarily, because unfortunately the levee in a nearby river broke and ended up flooding and destroying more houses after the hurricane was gone after a day or two. So you still have to worry about after effects from hurricanes. It's not just that. I feel awful for
Exactly.
those people.
Well, then you get all the mold that happens and just
Yes.
it's a mess. They
I'm
even
sure
had that
there's-
in the what was it? I think it was Joplin EF5 it was the EF5 Joplin tornado. And people who were caught in the tornado, the wind speeds were so fast it actually picked up the mold and fungus from the ground and embedded it in people's flesh, and their flesh started rotting because it was infested with those spores. So
Yikes.
imagine
Well, I
what
guess,
that does to your house.
Yes, we're still dealing with that too.
Yeah.
Because you have two things to worry about as far as that goes. You either get flooding, as we did, or you get your roof gets damaged and water comes in through there. So there's two ways to get that. Luckily, our roof was all right because we had a new roof put on earlier this year. But that was just because it was
good
time
timing.
to replace it. But yeah,
With really strong hurricane-proof nails, apparently. Real quick, I want to answer Skipper Kenner's question. I'm doing fine on Kraken. I'm starting to look at, after last week's stream, my Glenlivet is almost gone. So I'm going to be looking at getting a new bottle of Glenlivet. But that stuff's a little pricey. But look, if you're gonna imbibe, don't buy the cheap stuff that you don't enjoy. If you're gonna do it, enjoy it. Otherwise, don't even bother.
No compromises.
I'm actually starting to rethink how I mix my Moscow Mule, because gin, but what is gin really but vodka that's infused with juniper? And you don't taste the juniper when you mix it with ginger beer. So maybe I start using the cheap use up that crappy cheap American vodka that I got for that one taste test stream last year when I do mixers
Bob's
from
vodka?
Bob's vodka. Yeah.
Well,
oh
that
my gosh,
sounds like
that
a
stuff
winner.
was horrible. Oh my gosh.
yes, but it was
vodka.
Bob's vodka. Yeah,
Bob's
it was.
American vodka.
It was
American
terrible.
vodka.
I was doing a taste test between Bob's American vodka and what was it, Smirnoff vodka,
Oh.
and it was a blind taste test, and I was like, oh, this one's definitely better, and of course it was the Smirnoff, and I was like, okay,
You're
so,
not allowed to use the word vodka. It's potato juice.
potato
Potato
juice.
juice.
I don't know.
Potato juice.
Just,
Yeah,
I don't
you're absolutely right. Anyway,
Okay,
we kind of
okay.
got a little bit off topic because,
But, yeah,
I do like to talk about my booze.
But I remember someone I overheard a conversation or someone I knew overheard a conversation where they said, "What's it like out there?" And the one guy responded, "Hiroshima." Okay,
Oh my gosh.
that's the damage.
That's what
I
it
mean,
looked like in Fort Myers.
yeah. Oh, it's funny because I had to get my brother right because he had to get a replacement car because unfortunately his car did not survive this thing, but he got
no.
insurance for that, so he got a replacement car.
Oh, good.
I was taking him over to the place, and they I think some guy had come up from Fort Myers and he didn't know that they didn't have the thing ready. He's like, I drove the way from Fort Myers. It's like, we still don't have internet. And I'm like, it's like a month after this thing hit and they still didn't have internet. I don't know if I overheard that right, but it's like they keep in mind other areas get hit. Like we were without internet, I think, for a couple of weeks in my area. Luckily, through the generosity of a certain company, I got a place to stay because I was a county worker, so I was able to put my family in there for a little bit. But
Nice.
yeah, and I got internet up there. That's when I first came back. But it was not.
Yeah.
It was unpleasant. I'll say that it's not an
Yeah.
experience I want to go through again. And
Oh, yeah.
and you'll lose things. And I have to tell you, Troy and I were both collectors in nature, right? You know, right, Troy?
I know where you're going with this one.
And I collect a lot of things. I had a lot of water damage to things, and I'm like, you can't be sentimental. You got to toss that stuff. That is going to be mold. It's going to be. I had an original Tales from the Crypt library, one from the '80s, the reprint.
Oh,
It's gone.
no.
I know. I'll replace it at some point. You know, it's just there are things, and you know.
I'm thinking of investing in like one of those flood-proof, fireproof boxes where if anything, God forbid, were to happen, I could immediately like grab all my autographs and shove them in a box and just be, okay, now we're good. Now to get myself to safety.
It's funny because my storage had gotten flooded too, and the stuff I had in the plastic bins was fine, but unfortunately I had some stuff in banker-style cardboard boxes too.
Yeah.
Those things, the ones on the bottom didn't make it. Luckily, I had a lot of stuff on higher shelves, so that's okay. So it could have been a lot worse than it was, but yeah, it's just you're going to lose stuff in a hurricane. You just have to get over it, and you can you can document what you lost to see if maybe the insurance will cover it, maybe it will, maybe it won't, or you can at least know what you lost in case you decide you want to replace it or not. You know, so.
Well, and how's the recovery going for you?
Yeah.
For me, it's slow going. We have all the insurance details worked out, so we're waiting to see on the money. So that's next. It's good to have both flood and hurricane insurance because one thing does not necessarily cover the other. So you want to make sure you have all your and claim everything that gets damaged because you want to get that as high up as you can. So, but like I said, we did have a lot of damage. So. You have to also put things in perspective during this. You may feel bad, but keep in mind there's, our house supposedly from the inspector can be saved, so that's good. Other people have lost their houses. I was at a shelter, like just as I stayed there for a little bit, even after I was done hosting one. Being an employee. I don't want to say employee. I guess not a volunteer. Employee. Okay, I guess an employee.
An indentured servant. Of
well,
the
they were
government.
paying me, so let's not. I'll call myself an employee anyway. So, and there was this woman, and she was sitting at a park bench, and I was waiting for a ride, and she had a dog under the table. Nice dog, but the dog looked stressed, and he was just sitting there, normal dog, and I just, I left him alone. And she had told me they had flown her in from Fort Myers, and she had lost her whole house, and I think they had to rescue her like on the roof or something with the dog, and the dog looked stressed, and I'm just like, you have to put things in perspective,
Yeah.
Everyone's. It's not so much that you're not supposed to feel bad for your losses, but keep in mind everybody's had losses, and
Exactly.
think about what you've saved, what you have, and more. Maybe that's better than thinking about what you've lost. That might be better. Yeah.
Yeah. Looking on the bright side.
Yeah, well, yeah.
If there is one.
Sure. When I was about 13, I lost my entire comic book collection that I was collecting ever since I was 8. You're trying so hard.
Oh.
And a fire along with all my baby pictures.
No.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I hate to say this. There's an old video game I like called Samurai Showdown, and there's a quote in it, which I guess it's an old Japanese expression. It's all the creatures will die and all the things will be broken. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
Such a dark expression.
Beautiful. Happy chipper. Yes.
Well,
So-
you say it's I've seen that throughout my life. So like I had collected all kinds of comics throughout my life and toys and so forth, and so many of them I left behind. Well, all of them. I left all of them behind when I got married because Nanette and I eloped, and then my mom just sold everything off. So I lost all of that. But that was a choice. That was a choice on my part. I think I got the better end of the deal.
Hope so.
Hope so. Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah, because you got the.
I was getting to
sail
that.
barge.
Yeah, and she had ended up becoming my enabler, and so not only has she replaced many of the toys that I've lost over the years, but you know, she indulges me with things like the Java sail barge and such. But now I get to the point where I start looking around the house at, you know, all of the dioramas that I'm working on and so forth, and I'm like, you know, I'm over 50 now. What's going to happen to all this stuff when I'm gone? You know, somebody's going to need to
Find a successor.
Somebody's going to want, you know, the sail barge Pitacarcoon, you know, thing that I'm putting together. And then I see, you know, people sell, you know, dioramas like this on eBay for, you know, like $1,000+. And I'm like, well, maybe someday, you know,
Pay for retirement.
It's a way to make sure it goes to a good home. And yeah, if I can, you know, make a few bucks to, you know, round out the last years, you know. Gosh, this is depressing. Why are we talking about this?
It's what I've started thinking about, though.
It's
me
true,
and
right?
I'm still saying, wow, there's some John Wayne movies I still have never added to my collection. So there you go. Get some John Wayne westerns.
Do it.
That might center me, you know, watching some old 50s.
This
westerns.
is why every time someone comes to me and says, you need to watch this anime or you need to watch this show.
Yeah, you need to watch this anime.
It's like,
Like
you know what?
Academia.
I've got so many DVDs I haven't even watched yet, and the clock's ticking. I only got so much time left. I got
3 words
I'm
for you.
rich.
Mobile Suit Gundam. You got a lot of work to do. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about, don't you, Kate?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a My Hero Academia fan, so I'm familiar with that side of anime.
It's like a Star Trek level of commitment, okay? Like if you're going
Yeah.
through all the old show and Deep
God.
Space Nine and everything else. Anyway, what was I going to tell you though? But yeah, it's weird. Like you lose things. Like it's funny. One of the things I lost, which bugged me, were fairly recent purchases the last few years, were the reprints of the old '90s Tomb Raider comics, which, you know, back when Lara Croft was kicking ass and taking names, and those got wiped out. But you know, nothing's forever. That's what you have to realize to yourself. I'm not telling you to.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's weird because
No,
I still collect, and I'll still collect after this, but.
Exactly. It's just a rotation through life. You get things that you collect, and some things stay and some things go, and it just creates more space for more things.
Skipper Kenner has a ton of unnecessary shows to add to your list.
Nice.
I'm sure he does.
Listen, Troy, have you heard of a show called Numbers?
I used to watch
season?
that.
Oh, never mind. I was going to say.
I mean, not avidly, regularly.
He solved crimes with math.
Yes.
Okay, you remember.
The power of
Love
math, people.
Yeah, well, this show, I think
Nerd.
they at least had some understanding of the math. I'm sorry, I'm being mean. Anyway.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Judd Hirsch was on that too, remember? From Taxi? He played the dad, I remember that.
Yeah.
But,
And
anyway.
Orville Nation says, why are you talking about Stovall Core? Well, because I'm a Klingon, you know? I mean,
here is what I'll say. We still haven't gone in for the, we still have to get the repairs on the house done, so that'll be interesting. That'll be I'll see if I feel better or worse when that's going on. I'd like to think I'll feel better because we're getting to the finish line, but we'll see, you know.
Well, you have more time before the next hurricane season starts, so hopefully you can get it done before then.
You know something, don't
well,
choke,
the
I'm
rough
done.
part, I was going to say, but now you have to go through the winter, but Florida winters are not
That's
winters,
comfortable.
So. Yeah, exactly.
It can get cold down here. I mean, it's not cold like Michigan cold, obviously.
What do you call cold?
Like the 30s?
Aww,
I guess that's a
how
little-
cute.
I have to put on a jacket in 30-degree weather, so yeah, maybe it's a little...
That's so adorable.
That's brisk, baby. Yeah, there you
That's
go.
brisk, like those old commercials.
Dude, in Sioux
So-
City, we had summer temperatures of like 120 and winter temperatures of -40. It was the most extreme temperatures I've ever had in my life.
You been
So-
to Sioux City?
Worked there for 3 years.
Yep.
Did you have any Sioux City sarsaparilla while you were there?
I did not, but I did
Oh,
fly
love
through
it.
the Sioux Gateway Airport, so I got to have a little ticket that says sucks.
Okay. All right.
Nice.
They have like flying sucks and all this stuff on shirts, and it's SUX, and I love it.
Wow. But so I know, Katie, you're running out of time here. Boomer, any last questions you want to get out while we still have 3-time Emmy Award-winning meteorologist Katie Nickolaou
while I'm here,
with us?
I did want to ask her, was there anything unique? I mean, perhaps it's like a snowflake, all of them are unique, but I mean, was there anything unique about Hurricane Ian and weather history that was not seen before, or at least not for a while?
I have a list of things
Okay.
to talk about. No, because I did some research on it. And one of the things was this was the strongest September hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico since 2017 with Irma, which again was an name of a storm. And it also had a rapid intensification. It bombed out and it lost, I can't even recall how many millibars. The wind speed picked up like 35 miles an hour in 24 hours or something like that. And it just intensified so incredibly rapidly. More so than most storms. I think the last time that you had a hurricane in September with that kind of strength, you had Felix in 2007, which was a ways away. And also what was really weird about this one is how it hit Florida and then it re-intensified into a Category 1 before hitting South Carolina. So you got a multi-factor hurricane all over the place. And it went through Cuba, went through Florida. It just smacked through everything.
Wow.
Gosh, I just think about all the cigars that were probably destroyed. That's sad.
Completely lost.
Man.
What I want to know is how realistic was Twister?
How realistic was Twister, Katie?
Some way better than others, I'll give it that. I watched Day After Tomorrow, and I barely made it to the end. It was absolutely awful.
Oh, did you see Geostorm?
Yes, I did. Oh, my gosh.
That's the future of weather. You can control it in the future. Then terrorists take over the weather machine.
It'd be, oh my gosh. Yeah, no. The way that I describe the weather is you put a bunch of glitter in a bowl of milk. So it's kind of opaque. You stir it around. You point at one piece of glitter and say, where's that going to go over the next 7 days of spinning? And that's the weather. That's how we do it. So there's no way you're going to be able to control it or pick it out or whatever. Just not with our current resources. So I'm confident that we are going to be living more in the Twister-verse than we will in the Geostorm-verse.
One would imagine. There's an episode of I think it was Star Trek The Next Generation. Yeah, it was Star Trek The Next Generation, and they were trying to solve some mystery, something that happened on an away mission.
Yeah.
And Geordi is using the data from everybody's different tricorders. He feeds it into the computer, and then he builds a recreation of it on the holodeck. And when you have people taking pictures of things from different angles, you can reconstruct a lot, but then there are places that are out of view. And you have to extrapolate when someone walks out of view, and I don't remember what the computer says, but it gives the exact statistics of trying to extrapolate out where this person goes when they go off camera. And I'm going to call it camera because you assume there's a camera built into the tricorder, right?
Yeah.
But margin of error is exponential, for every second out. And I started thinking about that, and I'm like, in a way, that's kind of how all predictions are. Like, for example, weather prediction. You can probably predict the weather in the next 5 minutes with high degree of accuracy.
Very accurate.
Tomorrow's weather pretty accurately. Yeah. Next week's weather, yeah.
So you just described weather Plinko. So the game Plinko. Yeah. And it's the farther up on the board you are, the harder it is to determine where the puck's going to land. If I'm one peg up, I can tell you it's going to end up in that one. But same thing with the weather. The forecast, when you get any more than 7 days out, is going to be very inaccurate.
Yeah, and this is why I get so, getting back to the whole global climate change thing, by the year 2012, this will happen, and by the year 2022, this will happen. It's like,
there's quite a few variables that need to go into that consideration.
Yeah, it's like, and then, but see, it's like all the people throughout history that are predicting the end of the world, right? It's like, and then it comes, and then it goes, and why did we believe you? I mean... and then, of course, you've got your meteorologist saying, maybe y'all should just kind of stay in your lane.
Honestly, you get the people who are the internet weather people, who are the enthusiasts, and like I love weather enthusiasts. I mean, we all start as them before we get the degree, but there's a couple out there who are like, I'm a meteorologist because I know the weather, and it's like, but you don't have the degree to say you are a meteorologist, which means you don't have the formal training, which dilutes the degree, and it also adds a lot of errors into our field, and it decreases our, I guess, reputation and trustworthiness. So
it's like in the old West when you'd have these guys out selling these tonics calling themselves doctors, right?
Yes. I use that comparison.
Yes. Okay,
like,
good.
You're the traveling doctor. You come in, you tell people it's doomsday, and you leave town before you have to deal with the consequences.
I will take
and the
one
actual
more
meteorologist is left with it.
I will take one more question for Katie from the peanut gallery. Katie, do tornadoes happen over the ocean?
Absolutely. We just call them water spouts. And you can see it in Florida, too. We start out as a water spout, and then as soon as it touches land, it turns into a tornado. Simple as that. You can get them. Sometimes you get a tornado that starts out on land, crosses over a lake, it turns into a water spout, crosses back onto land, and it's more a tornado again.
When it makes that transition, does it drop the water, or does that continue to be part of the mash of everything it's pulled in?
It's still part of all that glob of mass that the tornado is. Typically when it comes to water spouts, it's not sucking up just ridiculous amounts of water necessarily, but it's enough that you could notice it, certainly, especially when it dissipates.
I was just thinking, I could totally see that, it just dissipates over somebody's backyard and suddenly flood,
Yeah. No, it definitely keeps water, but it can also suck up, like, if you get a tornado over a swamp, there's frog-nados, fish-nados.
I was just going to say, I know that's, we hear about frogs raining down and stuff, and that's exactly how it happens. Don't talk too much about the shark-nados because, Evelyn might get all excited. And...
Sharks are smart, and they actually know when there's a low-pressure drop. With tornadoes, their centers are low pressure, so they swim to deeper water and they're safe. But fish are stupid, so they can just get sucked up.
Well, but see, these special sci-fi sharks, they know that the food is on land, so they go to where the tornado's forming, so they can get up on land and attack the has-been starlet.
I thought this was the extended family of Jaws that want to finally get revenge on.
Yes, we've heard the stories. Attack.
Yes.
But
all right.
Anyway, Katie, what do you have coming up? Both on your weather, real life, and as well as so many random fandoms.
Yeah, so real life, I started the new job about a month ago, maybe more. Time has no meaning in Michigan. And that's just been going well, and I'm going to continue to get more comfortable with that and the new systems and everything. And hopefully I'll be back on track to do more TikToks. I'd kind of been silently protesting my old company by not making TikToks for them. So now I have autonomy and freedom to do it whatever I want on my accounts. So
nice.
And it's written into the contract.
There
so I'm going to start making more, and I do have a couple more fandom forecasts that are getting ready. I just have to, again, get comfortable with the graphics system because it's completely different. And once that's set, we're going to start cranking them out. I think the next one's probably going to end up being either a Cartoon Network or a Disney Channel one, and like do Disney movies and whatnot. Something
cool. Might be better than the films that are coming out of Disney. So
honestly, yeah.
There you go.
Just go back to the golden era and just be like, oh yeah, Lilo and Stitch. Here's your forecast. It was something fun like that, and of course, Order the Blue Lotus. What was that?
Oh, Lilo and Stitch. I remember that movie.
I love Lilo and Stitch. It's so much more fun when you watch it as an adult. Oh my gosh, I loved it. But we have Order the Blue Lotus coming up on Monday with me and Brandy talking about Avatar Season 2. And yeah, I have another show that's kind of in the works. I have a graphic for it, and that's about it. So we'll see if that comes out here in the new year.
Okay, so you need to be subscribed so you can find out what 100%. That new show is that she's talking. Oh, and we have someone coming in to say hi from Japan, Wagasaki Sea House. I can only imagine what time it is there. It's got to be. You're probably just waking up now, to be honest. But speaking of which, you need to get out of here so that you can get some Z's in before you got to be, talking weather over there in Michigan. So
have to make sense.
All right. Have a good night's
Great,
sleep.
you guys. Thank you for having me.
No,
Thank you.
thanks so much. I mean, when you have a 3-time Emmy Award winner on your channel, I mean, that's some bragging rights.
Big
so
time. Thank you.
You know.
Super appreciate that. One of these days I'll have to come to Michigan so you can sign my forearm.
There we go. I have a nice pen right here.
There you go. All right, Katie.
Awesome. See you guys.
Thanks so
Bye-bye.
much. Take care.
Hi, Katie.
So yeah, wow. She's got to be up. I think she said 1 a.m, or does she have to be on the air at 1 a.m? So she's only going to get a couple hours sleep. I don't know how she does it. Well, she's young. That's what I give her. She's young.
Well, I'll tell you, once you start hitting your 30s, then the all-nighter thing is not as easy to pull off as you used to. I don't know how.
I know you're right. I remember the first all-nighter that I pulled was it must have been in '89. I did an overnight at DePaul University, looking at that school, looking to go there, and just didn't sleep all night. And it was I was like, okay, this is what college is going to be like. By the time I was going home in the morning, I'm like, I don't like not sleeping. I don't think I'm going to do that again. And there was no alcohol involved. This was just a lot of fun, hanging out and, partying, but not, because
Going to Waffle House early in the morning.
that kind of stuff. And, oh my gosh, no more. I mean, and I came close sometimes with some of my D&D weekends and whatnot, but it's like, with wisdom, you realize everything you like doing that you would want to stay up late for gets less and less fun the more you get tired, because you can't process it. You just can't enjoy it anymore. So it's like, it's better to stop, get some sleep. We'll do this again another time, But then people look at you and go, okay, boomer. No, whatever. Okay, fine.
Okay, boomer.
And we even have Red Room Diecast. Well, I wish I could stay longer, but I have to go. Have a great weekend. See, that's exactly what I'm saying. When you got to go, you got to go. And that's perfectly fine. I super appreciate you hanging out with us. Glad you were able to hang out with us as long as you could, because, in this particular instance, we had an early one. So make sure that you're subscribed to Red Room Diecast. He's good people. And, I got to say, when I first started this and called it Last Call, my intent was for it to be a late night kind of thing, the whole last call for alcohol thing. But here's the problem. On the internet, your audience is the whole world. So I got Wakazashi's Tea House in Japan, and we got Matthew Flynn, in the UK,
And you got Netter 5 feet away.
I got Netter 5 feet away, right? And people in California and whatnot. So we have all these different time zones. So it's we're starting the show at, I guess, 7:00 California time. It's 9:00 my time, 10:00 your time. It's the middle of the night in England, and it's early morning over in Japan. So there's really no way for me to hit that sweet spot. So I just said, you know what? I'll make it 9:00 so that, I could be done by 11 and get to bed, because I'm an old fart, and I could just pretend it's a little later, But
If you got to go with a smile.
Go with a smile.
I like that Joker. I know some people don't like Nicholson the best, but I like his.
I'll tell you.
He just starts out as an evil gangster in the beginning, and then he's
see that's the upside and the downside, right? Because with Joker, the nice thing about Joker is every incarnation of Joker can work, right? Because we've kind of already established you could have the murderous psychopath, the funny trickster, and everything in between on any given day. And I actually thought that the best, whether or not he was the best portrayal, the best interpretation of Joker was the Nolan verse, where, he says, what is it? if I'm going to have an origin story, I want it to be multiple choice, you know?
Yes.
And that's why I love that, because we really shouldn't know the Joker's origin. And they've even in the comics done the whole Red Hood thing, which was kind of touched on with the Jack Nicholson. They used some of that for inspiration for the '89 Batman, but they've even kind of implied that maybe that wasn't his origin. Maybe there's more than one Joker. Maybe he just remembers it differently all the time. Maybe the Killing Joke origin that we saw was just one thing that he remembered that one day, but maybe that's not even close to the reality. For all we know, he could have been a mobster. He could have been, you know.
What I learned on is because Batman the Animated Series, since it comes right after the two Burton films, it was taking a lot of influence from those films on it. And on the original Batman the Animated Series, one of the psychologists at Arkham references that, you know, I know you see them as you know, Two-Face and the Joker, but it's really Harvey Dent and Jack Napier. Of course, then I find out in a later episode that the Joker has had a bunch of aliases, and Jack Napier was probably just a made-up name. You know, he probably forged an ID and something. You learn that he did work for mobsters in his younger career. So he was like a hitman, like a hit guy, you know, like I don't know if he's just like a hired gun for mobsters.
Was he, you know, a mobster himself, like Batman '89? Was he forced to work for them, as in the Killing
I don't know.
Joke?
They didn't explain. You know, he seemed like a
and
bad
you don't
guy
want
when
them
you see him in a flashback.
You don't want them to. It's better that it could be either or, you know. But and I'm going to agree with Geek Flag, except Jared Leto's version of the Joker. But I am willing to argue, if you want to put any stake in the Snyderverse and its canon, I think it's strongly implied that he's one of the Robins. That he's like Tim Drake or what was the one that was stealing the hubcaps off the Batmobile?
That was Tim Drake, wasn't it? Or was it Jason Todd?
Jason Todd, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I think Jared Leto was actually playing one of those, and I think that was more strongly implied by the Snyder cut. I don't know. I don't care, because it looks like the whole Snyder cut's over, or the whole Snyderverse is pretty much over with. We'll be talking more about that.
I need to watch the Snyder cut just to know.
I have no reason to, because I
saw the theatrical version of Justice League in the theater, and it was not good. There were a couple things I liked in it. Like I'll say, like even in movies that I don't like, DC's problems are different than Marvel's problems. I did like the one line Bruce Wayne said to the Flash. Says, and he goes, "Hey, what's your superpower?" And he says, "I'm rich," which I thought was funny. That's like something.
Yeah,
Tony Stark would
and
say,
the only way I could ever see Bruce doing that is if he was being flippant to be dismissive of somebody.
He was, because he was getting annoyed by Barry.
Okay, then maybe there's some value to that. But when that's all I saw completely out of context, I'm like, the problem is that the audience that likes this believes that, you know, and that is not what Batman is. And so much of the Snyderverse, and we've talked about this many, many times, so many things about the Snyderverse.
That was probably a Joss Whedon line. Just so you
probably.
Know, it was probably something he added.
It was all payoff without any setup. So you don't have an origin story for that Batman. Not that we need one. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they need to.
The impression I got from it is that you could have looked at him as sort of a spiritual successor to the Burton Batman, because there was a line in it when Alfred says, "Remember when all we had to worry about were exploding penguins," or something, like, you know, like a reference to something, a penguin scheme or something.
But here's my problem with that, though. Yeah. Again, you don't have the build up in between.
No,
so you have an older Batman where you don't know what's happened to him between, say, Batman and Robin and now, and there's no and if you're going to assume it's the same Batman, it's like, this is not that Batman. I can't buy that. You didn't do the setup to show that. It's the same thing I said about the Suicide Squad. Nobody gives a crap about Deadshot and Captain Boomerang and any of these other characters who were villains of these superheroes who haven't even had movies. So you haven't had the chance to see them as villains, to know who they are, to care about them. Instead, they give you an exposition dump at the beginning, and it's like, I didn't do my fucking homework to watch this movie. You know? So it's like...
Sometimes you feel like you have to do homework to watch the movie, because...
And heaven forbid you do, because then you go, no, that's not the way it was in the comics, and you got to read the comics to know what the fuck's going on. But if you read the comics, you know they're fucking it up. So that's the problem you run into here. And honestly, I think we've been saying almost since Man of Steel, but definitely since Batman versus Superman, we've been all, they need to reboot this shit. Reboot it. Even if you got to take a few years off, reboot the fucker. We'll get more into this on Sunday, but I have a theory that with all this talk and how they're still saying that it looks like we're still going to get the Flashpoint movie, I think they absolutely are planning to use Flashpoint as a reboot. That's just my theory. I haven't heard them say that on Midnight's Edge or anything like that. It seems logical. Considering all the news we're getting about all the other Snyderverse stuff going bye-bye, and yet they keep saying it looks like we're going to be getting this Flash movie. It's like, well, if we are, the only reason we're getting it is because it's going to put an end to everything else.
I don't know. Do they have a plan? I guess actually no. Apparently next week James Gunn is supposed to unveil his plans for the DC universe. I keep saying it's like soon they'll be unveiling what the new plan is. I guess it's going to be like Marvel, where you announce all the movies and projects ahead of time. Or are they going to do that?
See, and I'm kind of mixed mind about how I feel about that, because it's a good idea to let people know you've got a plan and give them at least the outline, so that you can have some faith in them. But at the same time, you give people too much information. And look, it's the same thing we've been doing over on the Marvel side, where you start watching these slow burn shows and the fans start getting all these great fan theories. And then it turns out, oh yeah, no, the writers aren't that good. They don't know enough about the lore to come up with those great ideas. So what we got was actually just kind of shit, and we're all disappointed because the fans came up with better story ideas, you know? But, you know.
Well.
I don't know. I heard in 2023, Matanui, but I'll have to look and see if we've got something a little bit more definitive. But now I'm starting to think, maybe let's wait until next week and hear what Gunn has to say. I am kind of interested in what Gunn is going to bring to the thing. I think it's a mistake to think that he's all just, Guardians of the Galaxy, humorous, tongue-in-cheeky type stuff. I think he's better than that. If for no other reason, I think he's good. I always said you don't need the person overseeing it to have all the plans and answers and whatnot. You need somebody who could be an FDR, who can say, you are good at this, I want you in charge of this. And you're good at this, so I want you to do this. And this is your movie because I think it would be good for you. I'm going to do this because that's my thing, and then manage all of that. That's what we really need, Just my thought, though. Why? What were you going to say, Boomer?
Nothing. We'll just have to wait and see. I think he was originally going to be picked to take over the MCU, but then I think he had that controversy with his Twitter account, and then they fired him from Guardians 3. Then they rehired him, but at that point, he was already working for Marvel. So he did come back to DC, but I think he was supposed to take over after Phase 3. I'd heard a rumor about that. Like, they were probably going to have him be the Feige of the MCU. So I think what Warner's is, they just snatched him from...
I think everyone wants to just get the fuck away from Disney, to be honest with you. Anyone who's worth anything is leaving Disney.
Do you think Favreau will leave after the final season of The Mandalorian? You think that'll be his getting out of there at that point? I don't know.
I am done trying to predict what he's going to do, but I can tell you this. When was the last time he did something that people were all excited about? That he was a named topic?
It was The Mandalorian Season 2. That was the last thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was all based on hope that never played out. I would have to say it was. You got to go back to the beginning of the MCU.
Is it his fault though? I mean, that's the thing. We don't.
You always have to blame. It's your own responsibility to make the decisions on where your career is going, and I think he.
Well, no, I meant that show went under. Like, I'm starting to wonder if maybe all this talk that
it's all Disney. It's all Disney.
My point is maybe they were trying to do something under the scenes, and then maybe people over at Lucasfilm figured it out by listening to theories, and they figured out that may have been what they were trying to do, and they put the kibosh on it.
It all comes down to, and we see it not just from Favreau, but from everybody at Disney. You've got very talented people that they just have their hands shackled. They don't get any decision-making ability. They can't be creative. They have to do what the mouse says, and you end up with a bunch of shit, And he's probably, we had always speculated he has a passion for Star Wars, so he's hoping to ride things out so he can start doing what he wants to do. In the meantime, his career is dying, and his brand is dying, and his resume is getting older and older and dusty, and as long as you stay with Disney, you're on a sinking ship. So he really should have taken, Warner Brothers up on the opportunity. He missed the boat now because now Tim Gunn is over there.
But he can still work for them and do movies. I mean, James Gunn's not going to be directing every movie. They should get him over there as a director, and we'll see what he can do. I've argued he should take over Green Lantern. Don't you think that makes sense?
Skipper Kenner makes a great point here about we've had a lot of talk about not even multiverses, but the shared universe, right? Because Favreau set this up for Marvel, right? He did a great job of, we'll do this movie and we'll do this movie, and that movie is out there too. And these are the Avengers. Let's lead up to an Avengers movie, And the smart thing to do would have been, okay, and then after that, you go and you do some more movies with different characters or the same characters or whatever. Start leading up to something else, right? They don't always have to be directly, together. And that's what Marvel ended up becoming after Favreau, right? Because you would go and you would see Winter Soldier. I'm sorry, that wasn't a Captain America movie. It was an Avengers movie. It was
you're thinking of Civil War.
Oh, Civil War. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Civil War, right? And all the other movies that were this superhero, that superhero, it wasn't about them. It was about other characters. They were sidelined in their own movies, and that's not the shared universe that they're trying to replicate from the comics. In the comics, everyone had their individual titles, and every now and again you'd have someone cross over, and maybe the story would be like part here, and then you'd have to go by their title in order to see the second half of it. I had a lot of comics like that where I'd have a year's worth of Superman, but right in there I'd have one, Batman comic because, this story finished over there or whatever. But for the most part, you focused on just that character. And then when they all came together in some sort of a big thing, it was once every couple of years, right? And
right, because they have their own things they were dealing with. Yeah,
exactly. And but I don't know, man. I think that it really requires somebody to have that kind of vision. And look, if you're going to build a symphony, right? You've got to be able to bring together all these different instruments into one beautiful orchestral piece, right? And I feel like Favreau did that leading up to, his Avengers films. Somebody else took the baton from him, and it just became a bunch of people wanting to play their solo songs, and they're just playing over each other, and it became a cacophony, And if you're going to do a shared universe like that, you better have, a conductor who can conduct a symphony. Otherwise, don't. Go back to what, as Skipper Kenner was saying, where we had, Superman and Batman, and they had their separate movies, and then you'd have Batman make some reference to the circus being halfway to Metropolis by now, so you know that they're in the same universe, but they're in separate cities and they don't really interact, and that's fine. That's probably the way to go. Again, this was the problem that Marvel had it and lost it, and DC never had it. They tried to put the cart in front of the horse. They wanted to pretend they already had it, and they didn't. Either way, you don't have an orchestra. You have a mess, and maybe it's okay to have a bunch of solo instrumentations, that occasionally come together and do an orchestral tune together, But anyway, yeah. A concerto became a catalog, yeah, kinda, and that comes back to, what was so great about Star Wars. There's a lot of things you could say to answer that question, but the one thing I'm going to say right now, the marketing. You had kids loving it because you only had 3 movies. There were only 3 movies. And there was many years in between those movies. In between those movies, the kids were playing with toys, and they were making their own stories in their heads. And then they would go to see Empire Strikes Back. And then they had new stories in their heads. And that's where this love came from. You cannot ignore that. And none of that exists anymore for either side. The marketing is dead. Anyone who follows the toy market will tell you nobody's buying Star Wars toys unless it's older stuff. Nobody is buying the new, MCU characters. They're buying the older ones. You've already lost a micro generation. We've already lost the momentum. It's dead.
What about Lego Star Wars? Is that still selling?
Now, unfortunately, I can't speak to Lego because I'm not a Lego guy. Right. Maybe we got somebody in the chat who's more of a Lego guy than I am. Looking at you, Skipper Kenner. I don't know. Let's see. If James Gunn was smart, and I think he is, the best way to bring people back to the theater for DC movies is to make it as close to the comics as possible and with only necessary changes. Yeah. I'm going to say that... Oh, and to answer the question, Lego Star Wars rocks. Yeah, I hear it's still selling well. But again, it's selling old stuff, right? It's selling your Millennium Falcons and even prequel stuff. Not so much this new stuff. But here's the problem that you run into. You've got, and we said this for a long time, we've got 60 to 75 years worth of great, iconic comic book stories to draw from, right? There is no excuse for where Marvel has found themselves having to go, well, if we're going to fit, the Fantastic Four into it, then we've got to explain where they've been for the past 30 years. How do we put them in retroactively? Ant-Man, Henry Pym in the 50s. We got to retroactively put him in. Captain Cheese Girl, where's she been for the past, decade or whatever, No, you plan that out before you start. And if you want a character to have existed before the story that's taking place now, you reference what they should have done with Wonder Woman is they should have had Wonder Woman planned before they started Superman. And there should have been, after the first appearance of Superman, hey, it's like that girl from World War II that she was an urban legend. Nobody's seen her, And then a few years later, you do your World War II Wonder Woman story. You know, it's already set up.
It'd be funny if they thought it was a hoax.
verisimilitude.
It was a hoax put on by the U.S. government. Oh, it's like the Jersey Devils. You never really existed. It was just,
I could totally see that in World
thing
War
to make
II,
the
right?
troops, to make the troops it was for the morale of the troops. You had this
Exactly right, exactly right. And she was just one of the USO girls, in the calendars and stuff. She wasn't really doing all that stuff that you saw in the newsreels. That was all made up. Then you see the movie and it's like, she's, they got some pictures of her, waving at some people and put her in a calendar or something. But no, she was really there to, to help and protect and, so on and so forth and whatnot. But that's the way you do this kind of stuff, right? And then you plan out, okay, what's our first phase going to be? What's our second phase going to be? What are we leading up to? What are we leading up to? And what do the other characters do in the meantime? Because you should be thinking through Batman, Robin, maybe another Robin, Batgirl, okay? And then Robin goes on to be Nightwing, and they got other stories, and we got some Teen Titan things going on and so forth. And then eventually we get to old Batman, has a son who's Robin, maybe starts training a new Batman in the Batman Beyond era. You think through the generational change, and you've got 20 years worth of movies ahead of you. And that's just Batman. Then you back up and you do the same thing with Superman. Superman, he gets married, dies, comes back. Jonathan, lead on to other things too. You plan all this stuff out. In between, you can have some Justice League stories, as the capstone or whatever. But you better have planned out what you want to do and start seeding those, and not as these the whole thing leads to this commercial for the next movie. I just mean little Easter eggs. You throw in an Easter egg, if people start nibbling at it, you go, okay, there's interest there. Let's do that movie. Or, we'll just leave it as a background thing. Nobody cares. Nobody.
Justice League. Is it justice or just us? Because.
Or Justice Whedon, yeah, exactly.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, apparently Ray Fisher sabotaged his career. Remember that whole thing?
Okay, and I agree with this. You don't have to think out everything. You do have to leave room for people to fill in the blanks when you greenlight something in between. Yeah, but you do need to have a plan. There's something in between, right? There's over-planning with every little detail because the best laid plans of mice and men, right? But at the same time, there's also the seat of your pants, making up bullshit as you go, and then having to go back and retroactively weed shit in because you had no plan to begin with. In between is the sweet spot, But call me crazy, but I think Bruce Campbell would make a great old Batman for Batman Beyond. I could almost see him being like a... If I was going to see that, I want to see a Batman Beyond in the spirit of the Adam West Batman, with Bruce Campbell playing that role. I could see that. I'd love to see that. That would be very, very interesting. Don't know, just my thought. But anyway, so yeah, we have Geeky Geezers coming up on Sunday, which is going to be a lot of DC talk. There's been a lot of news coming out of DC lately.
Yeah, apparently it's talk about Flashpoint, right?
And we're going to talk about some Flashpoint too. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But what else do we got going on? Let's start with tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a very special watch party over on Netter's Network, celebrating her birthday, because her birthday is this weekend. Happy birthday, Netter.
Yay!
We're going to be watching...
Happy birthday.
I get cake.
She gets cake.
Cake is awesome.
She's fired up about cake. We will be watching, it's kind of a birthday-themed film, Liar Liar. The whole the whole conceit of the film is it's predicated on a birthday wish. So we will be watching.
His son.
And as per usual, I will have the Cosme link up so that you can watch along with us if you don't have your own copy. But it's a great movie. That's one you really should own if you get the opportunity. Again, Geeky Geezers on Sunday. Some Warner Brothers news. We've got a little bit of Ghostbusters news too. There is going to be some in remembrance. So I think we're just going to have to get used to that being a regular thing. I don't think there's any way around it because there's always someone being born and there's always someone dying. So that's just the way it's. That's what were we saying earlier when Katie was here? It's just the nature of things. It's the way life goes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah.
Do we have a Batman on
show on Monday? I'm not sure
if
Birdman's going to be in town or not because he might be going out. He might be staying. It's depending on some situation with his car. So keep an eye on his channel though.
And any Mr. Matchstick on Tuesday?
No, nothing this Tuesday.
I didn't think so. Last week we had a really great talk about Spectacular Spider-Man from the early aughts. That was a great talk. That was a lot of fun. Talk about somebody who took a bunch of disparate stories and weaved them together in an ingenious way. And didn't have it all 100% planned out because there were some characters he wanted to use and couldn't. So he worked with what he had and he did a brilliant job. That was a great rewatch. So go check it out. We talk about it over on his channel, and we'll get to season 2 next month. But let's see, Wednesday. How about Wednesday on Soundtrack?
No, I don't think anything this week. Keep an eye out on the channel, though. I just don't know. There might be something. It just depends on if he's going to be in town or not. So, yeah.
That's fair.
We're playing it by ear. We may or may not have something.
That's fair. And then that brings us around to next week when next Friday on right here on Last Call. Returning very special guest. You know him from all the other channels you watch. But he's coming specifically because he said he'd be available. And it would be very encouraging to net her after her birthday. So he's going to come wish her a happy birthday. Mikey, the Mexican Iron Man, is going to be joining us next week.
Yay!
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to... I need to ask him some questions
about your taxes?
Well, no, about a certain movie he saw, which I'm thinking maybe he's mellowed out a bit on,
No, he does not mellow out when he's upset about something. He is an incredibly positive kind of guy. But when he gets upset about something... he gets really upset.
I think I need to have a talk with him saying, maybe you need to reevaluate the movie, go see it again.
But I'm thinking to honor Mexican Iron Man, it might be a tequila night next week. Although he hates tequila, so I don't know what to tell you about that. But maybe I'll have to get some tequila. Alexa, add tequila to the shopping list.
Tequila added.
Thank you. Let's see.
Sorry, I don't know that.
That's fine. You're done. Goodbye.
I don't know that one.
Shut up! And then she gets all pissy with me. No.
You know what?
I will not be talking about Alf on my show. I don't know. Maybe I will. I have some memories.
Oh, we need a scene on Tulsa King of Stallone's character Dwight dealing with like an Alexa style device.
Yeah.
I was thinking I would have too bad with Tony Soprano wasn't around enough for them to get to Alexa, but I figure Tulsa King might be the next best thing. Have the mobsters and that dealing with like an Alexa, what they would say to her. You're a hoa. That's how they say it.
But so that is the upcoming week, and then. I think, is it the following? Let me look. So after we have Mikey the Mexican Iron Man, let's see. We're still in December. So the week after that is Christmas weekend. And so that's the 23rd. I'm thinking about I'm not going to have a special guest. Other than of course yourself and Netter, but I'm thinking about maybe doing a Christmas watch party. I don't know what, something. I think that's what I might do on the 23rd. And I see Mr. Matchstick has joined us. We were just talking about you, Mr. Matchstick. Do you have anything coming up this week at all? We thought no, because I was just telling everybody about Spectacular Spider-Man last week and suggesting they go check that out. But, do you have anything coming up this week? And what is the next show coming up on your channel that they should be looking forward to? And then on the 30th, I'm going to do something New Year's related. I mean, it's not like it's New Year's Eve, it's New Year's Eve. So I don't know. Maybe we'll watch a New Year's related film or do a year-end retrospective kind of thing. I don't know, something like that.
Cool.
So we were right. There isn't a show this week. But you know what? Still subscribe to Mr. Matchstick's channel. Like I said, next month we'll be doing the second season of that Spectacular Spider-Man. And I got to say, it's I was talking about earlier on how, I have people suggesting that I watch things, and it's like I can't. I have too many things to watch. But I'll tell you what, Mr. Matchstick has been spot on. He's had me watching some stuff, and it's like, how did I not know about this? And I'm kind of glad that he's gotten me, into some of the shows he's gotten me into. What are my Christmas plans? Probably the same as last year. Netter and I have ham. On for Christmas, ham and ravioli. Well, Christmas Eve is, of course, the fishes. Oh, that's a good thing. Good thing you reminded me. So I had started filming for the Klingon Cleric channel last year. I had created or at least the footage for a Pippius Claw cooking video that didn't turn out. And throughout the course of the year, I've refined the recipe, come up with some new ideas, some new filming techniques too, with a better camera. So I will be making Pippius Claw again for Christmas Eve, and I will use that footage probably either before New Year or early in January. I'll get that up on that channel. I'll let everybody know about that, but I'll finally be getting that Pippius Claw video done. I mean, I get a lot. I'm still getting comments on the Gach video over there, and I got some good comments over there on the Wasaka berry pudding from the Star Wars Holiday Special. So yeah,
Wasaka berry pudding.
It was good. It was very, very good. The week after, so a week from Tuesday, Topic Thunder, character. Okay.
Characters coming back to life in the comics.
In comics. Characters coming back to life in
Everyone's
comics. Right. We were making the joke about Green Arrow and Jean Grey and, so many other characters that get killed over and over and over again. In fact, I just saw a video today, someone talking about Stephen Moffat and how, under the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who, characters never died. They just never died. He always found some way to circumvent death. And it's like, well, if characters never die, they never, there's never any stakes, And he even played at that with what was the Impossible Girl?
Amy, no, not Amy Pond, not Amy. The other one.
After her. It was, I forget, the Impossible Girl. She, she does something really stupid that's going to get her killed. And Doctor's like, I can't, why did you do that? She's like, because you'll come up with a way to save me. Because they always do. And sure enough, he kind of sort of
He didn't really, though.
He didn't really, but the circumstances around
She's
the whole time
technically
travel thing
dead. I mean, that was what the impression.
But she has a whole life. She could have an infinite amount of time between now and when she.
But she's still technically dead. That wasn't that was actually during the Capaldi era, and I know some people didn't like that season, but I thought it was on fire because one, they went back to doing what they did on the old show, which was by having a lot of two-part episodes. So it felt like the old school Doctor Who, and they had that wonderful finale. And I was hoping. I mean, we didn't quite get this, but I was hoping that one of the Time Lords was going to say, "I know that just because you saved Gallifrey, just because you saved Gallifrey doesn't mean you can go and go off and gallivant and do whatever you want." I was expecting that to be, and he was going up against some corrupt Time Lords again. But of course, then they just made the Time Lords completely bad, and now he's not even a Gallifreyan anymore.
Well, I'm gonna defend that because.
But why did he bother saving Gallifrey and the children when they were bad all along?
Well,
doesn't make any sense.
It comes under the same thing as we're dealing with in the real world, right? You can hate a government, but it doesn't mean all the people are evil, right?
Yes.
And the Time Lords have been established throughout, even back to the regeneration between the second to the third Doctor.
That was a wonderful finale of him.
And they were. There were many times the Doctor went against them because they weren't always the good guys.
They were ruthless. They were on the side of order. That's basically what the Time Lords. They weren't necessarily good. They were on the side of order. Yeah,
order isn't always good.
Yes,
right. And see, that's the thing. That's why Dungeons and Dragons has the lawful and chaotic. That doesn't equate to good and evil, right? That's why you could be chaotic good. You could be lawful evil. And I would argue that the Time Lords, lawful neutral at best, sometimes bordering on evil. But you're right, they were lawful, not chaotic. Doctor brought a little bit of the chaos. Doctor's definitely chaotic good. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
But on the good and evil scale. But you know what? None of it matters anymore because, they've completely retconned everything. The Doctor has an infinite number of regenerations, and there's no stakes anymore. So, we'll definitely be listening on Mr. Mastick's Topic Thunder about, whether or not it means anything for a character to die. And if it doesn't mean anything, who cares? It used to be when there was a cliffhanger ending. It'd be like, I remember as a kid, I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? The Lone Ranger's sinking into the quicksand. Is he going to die? I got to see it next week, And what I didn't know was my parents were like, they're not going to kill off the Lone Ranger. He's going to survive. I don't know how he's going to survive. He's going to survive. Don't worry about it. And if I missed that episode, he was alive and he was okay. I don't know how he survived, but he did. I miss caring about what happens at the end of a cliffhanger.
They I remembered Doctor Who had some of the worst cliffhanger episodes in the old show. Remember that? Everything that could go wrong was going wrong. Looked like he was going to die. Remember the one where he was stuck in that time loop, Tom Baker, and he kept repeating the same thing over again because the villain he said not even a Time Lord can escape a hysteretic loop or whatever it was called, right? And it was
Yeah. No, I mean, and there's some I was just thinking about Adric, and see, that's the funny thing too. Adric dies. It was a good death. Made people sad. But most people didn't like Adric. So they weren't that sad, and some were actually kind of happy he died.
Do you remember when the next episode when his companion says, you have a time machine, go back and save him? And he says, no, I can't. Remember he got very angry. He says, I can't do that now. It's too late. And I wonder if that's like one of those things where it's like a precursor to what he called fixed points. Like he can't interfere at that point. Yeah.
And it actually, if you refer back to that in terms of the fixed points, that's probably a great way to do it because it doesn't make any sense if there's no explanation. But if you think about it in those terms, you can go, look, yeah, I could change that. If I did, and I went and I saved Adric, there will be no human race. None of you will exist. See?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? There was a lot of that implication that once the doctor knows the cause and effect, he can't undo that cause and effect. Then it becomes...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's like if you... With an ontological paradox, if you don't know how things happen, but you know they must happen, you don't need to know how it happens. It's going to happen. Doesn't matter what I decide, things are going to be okay. That's how the doctor tends to go through things. But once he knows the cause and effect, now he's got a dilemma, right? Do I intercede and do I not? I think one of the best ways in modern Who that they handled it was the first Capaldi story, and not when Capaldi was the doctor. It was the fires of Pompeii.
Right.
Where he's like, I could prevent Pompeii from happening and save all these people. But if I do that, it radically alters history. I can't do that. This is a fixed point. And his companion is like, but you've got to do something. And he realizes, I can't change the big event, but I can do something. And he saves one family.
Yes.
You know? And it's like, and because in the grand scheme of things, it's inconsequential. But it's not. It's not inconsequential. It's an ontological paradox. The doctor was part of events that led to the fires of Pompeii and everything. But he was also involved in saving that one family. He didn't change history, you know, from a certain point of view. And when I say a certain point of view in this instance, I mean from a four-dimensional, outside of the timeline view of time. It kind of scrambles your noodle when you think too hard about it. But
this is why you don't like time travel. You think time travel is going to go terribly wrong.
It can if you're not a good writer. See, you know, it goes back to like the kind of stuff we were talking about with, you know, the shared universe and all that. You got to have it planned out. But with things like time travel, you have to plan out. You now have to plan out some real minutia. Otherwise, you can't use time travel and just play by the seat of your pants, make it up as you go. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, Skipper Kenner. The Pompeii was a fixed point. The family he saved wasn't. Right. Did it change history overall that the family was saved? Not that anyone would notice. And so the fact probably is, he probably did save that family originally and did again. Oh, you know what I mean, you know. You didn't read about that family in the history books, so you don't know if saving this family is going to have any impact. Therefore, they're not a fixed point, so to speak. The doctor has the free will to save them because it doesn't hurt anything, or just be an asshole and let them die. He doesn't do that if he can avoid that, right? One hopes. But I know that there's other channels doing a lot of a Doctor Who news. I am not, because I am not following it. I'm not watching any of this new Who, any new Who, you know. But it does look like at least they're getting back to doing Christmas stories, and they're planning out the Christmas stories a couple of years in advance. So that's something that Russell T Davies is bringing back instead of this holiday special that takes place anytime
New Year's
Christmas.
Did you hear when Matt Smith was talking to was it Billy Piper, and he was going, he's oh, it's a New Year's special, and I was, oh, that's a bit of a downgrade, isn't it? like it wasn't wrong, was he?
That. No, absolutely not. Look, I think everybody's getting sick and tired of this counterculture, destroy history, we hate tradition thing, you know. And this is why you start to see so many of these Democrats that are, you know, leaving the Democratic Party, becoming independent or going over to the other side or whatever, because they're like, look, you have gone so far left. You've gone farther than I could possibly. What did Reagan say? He said, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. And I think there's a lot of Democrats that are starting to say that now. And I see it in Hollywood as you have these very, very traditionally liberal people, because let's face it, the art world is, made up of liberal minds going, okay, you've gone off the cliff now. There's being a free spirit and there's being an anarchist. I cannot follow you down into that gorge, Anyway, that's just, that's what happens to me when I've gone past the drink and it's starting to wear off. So
you've had a little too many libations.
Yeah, Moscow mules. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I had a cocktail and she had a Moscow mule. Have you seen that Tex Avery cartoon? The one that I'm talking about?
Yes, I think so.
I guess you could say I grew up overnight, and you see a baby grow up into an adult.
That's funny.
And the sun come up. Yeah. I was beside myself with anger, but I carried on.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. Let's get this wrapped up. I want to thank everyone. Wow, there's 10 of you that are still here. Yeah, I am wrapping it up a little early because we did. I actually went 2.5 hours. So that's still, you still got a good long show, but I am ending it a half hour early because we started an hour early because Katie's got to already be like snoring right now. I mean, if she's getting any sleep tonight. But, any last words, Age of Boomer?
Nothing. Thank you for having me as always. But yeah, it was good to talk about the hurricane.
Thank you for telling us your harrowing story.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, it may not
probably more harrowing than I'm giving it credit for. Maybe
it may not have been, the kind of thing that would make for a great, 2.5 hour film, but it's not the kind of thing that's a lot of fun to live through. It's definitely an experience.
Ooh.
So I thank you for sharing that with us. Is there any, especially after tonight talking with Katie, your experience and so forth, I guess what I'm basically getting at is...
My God, I shall cherish this forever. I say, Opie, I'll trade you this baseball for your souvenir bat.
Sure.
What did you learn?
So what did you learn,
funny.
Aged Boomer? What is your takeaway from this?
What did I learn? Package your stuff in plastic tubs.
That's not a bad one. That is not a bad one.
More money, but it'll save it in the long run.
That is, because what it comes down to is it's not a question of if it happens again. It's going to happen again.
No.
You have to look at the things in your first floor and go, what do I do for when this floods? Don't have anything that's cardboard or wood touching the floor. If at all possible, put it in a plastic bin. So at least the water has to get above the plastic bin before it, ruins anything.
And have a bug out bag.
Have a bug out, yeah. Be prepared to split. You may have to spend some time in a shelter, but what are you going to bring with you to the shelter? Make sure you got that crank radio so that you can still hear stuff. If you can get a satellite phone, get yourself a satellite phone.
Well, I had one that could connect to I had one of those, so I had that.
Talk to Elon about a Starlink or something like that.
Starlink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever. Satellite internet connection and whatnot. But anyway, good. Thanks. Thank you. Because you were my other starring guest tonight. You're always my guest, but you were one of the starring guests tonight because we were focusing on your experience and what happened to you. Netter, last words? She's got to get
come over here so you can hear me.
Right.
Well, I always say that we can talk amongst ourselves and that's all well, good and fine, and we have a lot of fun doing it. But it is so much more fun when you guys are dropping comments and trivia and what have you in the link, in the chat, and it's more like we're all in the same room together than miles and miles apart. You guys aren't just friends to us. You're family too.
Yep.
We love you guys. We appreciate you being here. And don't forget to tune into my channel tomorrow night for my birthday celebration. And if you're not already subbed to me, I only need 14 more to make that 200, and then I'll have a special giveaway. Just saying.
That would be a great birthday for her. So yeah, awesome guys. Yeah, thank you so much. Talk about being like family. This is why we celebrate our birthdays on the stream. So that we can hang out with you guys. Thanks everyone. It's always a blast hanging out with you, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Good night, ladies.
Good night, sir.
Hit it, sweetheart.